I'm Dan Murphy, and you're watching the Sherborn Annual Town Meeting. Right now, everyone's gathering their seats, and we're hoping to reach a quorum. So if you're watching this at home, feel free to come down to the Dover Sherborn High School and enter the Lincoln Commons building. If you're a registered voter, your name's going to be there. Go to address, sign in, and prepare to vote. This evening, hopefully we'll get through this in one night. If not, we'll go to another night. But there are 32 warrant articles that will be discussed and voted on. And right now, the Sherborn Advisory Committee has put out a booklet that you should have received in the mail, discussing many of these warrant articles and what action they recommend be taken on them. The majority of the articles, they recommend favorable action, but there are quite a number of exceptions that they recommend no action. And the 32nd warrant article is a bit of a disputed article, where there are members of the advisory committee on both sides of the issue. So that one's going to be a contentious one. It should be the last article of the night, but there's a potential it could be moved up earlier. So again, if you're watching this at home, it'd be advisable for you to come down if this is something that you're really interested in affecting the outcome of. So why don't we start by talking a bit about what warrant articles are going to be discussed at this town meeting. The contentious one that I mentioned, Article 32, relates to a proposed building in development on Maple Street in Sherborn. And basically this would be for over 55 housing. I believe it's 66 units are being proposed to be built on land that a developer is hoping to purchase, contingent on what the ruling is, I believe. And so this would favor over 55 residents potentially downsizing who want to stay in Sherborn. One of the issues, however, is the proposed costs of these properties is open to debate as perhaps it's outside of people's price ranges, and though this project is designed to increase revenues in the town of Sherborn, in fact there are other ongoing building projects that are very similar. Okay, and we're starting, so let's go to the town meeting now.
Just before the moderator opens town meeting tonight, I have a short presentation to make. Many of you don't know that last year at town meeting, there was no gavel. So I threw myself on the mercy of Dean Bogan, and of course, he went down to the shop and came up with something. So tonight, I'd like to present this very special, handmade, one-of-a-kind gavel to our town moderator, Corey Lincoln.
Do you want me to sit it over here? Yes, please. Thank you very much. Things get a little out of hand tonight. I may throw that. I don't know. I have been advised that a quorum of at least 100 people are present, and I'd like to welcome you and call to order to Sherborn's 237th annual town meeting. It's pretty admirable. The town clerk, Carol Marple, confirms that the warrant was properly posted by the town constables and that the tellers for tonight's meeting have been sworn in. I'm getting sort of an odd echo. Can everybody hear me? Is it? Okay. A couple of housekeeping reminders before we get started. First of all, if you do leave the auditorium for any reason, you must leave only through that rear door. You must leave your ballot with one of the official check-in people at that door, and they'll give you a pass so that if you come back into the room, you may reclaim your ballot, and this applies to absolutely everyone. Secondly, if you could please make sure that your cell phones are on courtesy mode, and if you do take a call, please leave the room. Third, if you could make certain that the stairs in the rear and the aisles are always clear. It's an important safety consideration. Fourth, we always welcome non-voters to the meeting. We love having visitors, but just to make sure that you don't get caught up in the vote count, we ask that you sit in the rear section to my right, to your left. And fifth, I'd like to announce tonight a first. We have assistive hearing devices that are available to be used this evening. They're stored at the audio table in that back cross pathway, and if you would like to use one of those, please see Pat Cassell and she will check one out for you. And this makes it doubly important that whenever you speak tonight, that you not speak from your seat. Excuse me, could I ask people who are coming in to try and do it quietly? That whenever you do speak tonight, that you not do so from your seat. Make sure you're at a mic. The assistive hearing devices only pick up audio from the mic system. I'd like to introduce the people on the stage. To your left, my right, is the advisory committee. We begin with Chairperson Mary Wolf, who is right next to me. Next to her is Vice Chair Ben Williams, then Jeff Waldron, Jeff Rudin, Lanny Rubin, Vicki Rellis, Russ Pollock, Barb Kantorski, and Anthony Barsamian. To your right, my left, right next to me, is Town Council Barbara San Andre, then Town Clerk Carol Marple. Then we have Chairperson of the Board of Selectmen Peter Caruso, Chairperson Paul DeRensis, Mike Jaimo, and then we have our Town Administrator David Williams and our Assistant Town Administrator Diane Moores. We're going to begin the meeting with some brief reports, first from the Board of Selectmen, then advisory. Following their reports, I will review some rules of the road for the conduct of our meeting tonight, and then we can proceed with the business. We'll begin with Peter Caruso.
Thank you, Corey. Good evening, and welcome to the 2014 Annual Town Meeting. I want to thank you all for coming. I also want to thank Advisory and Capital Budget for the hard work leading up to tonight and the fine report that they have provided us. Likewise, thanks to our many employees and volunteers without whom we couldn't have gotten to this point. Thanks also to my fellow selectmen who work hard to bring much value and expertise to the town every day. They're good guys. Most importantly, though, thanks to all of you for being here tonight. You're going to be able to participate. You're going to be asked to participate tonight, so I thought we'd have a little practice if we could. I'm the warm-up act here. So when you're going to vote on something, you're going to be asked to say yay or nay. So let me ask you, is everybody comfy? Say yay if you are. Yay. If you're not, please say nay. I expected a few up here because these chairs are horrible. Let me ask you, since many of you said yay, just practice for saying nay. What do you think of today's weather? Pretty good? Nay. Well done. Now, another thing you might have to do is, let me ask you, you're going to hold up this card on occasion. So we're going to practice that. If you could find your card. I'd like to ask those of you who think we're going to get done in one night to please raise your card. And those of you who think we're going to get done in 2 nights, raise your card. That's hopefully helpful to Corey here. Anyway, you know, there are, in my view, 3 classes of people from Sherborn. One, we have all of our residents. They range in age from infants to those who have been around a century or more. There are about 4,200 of those in all. Second class, as I would call it, are the taxpayers. There's somewhere between 1,500, give or take, properties that pay taxes. Let's say they're just for rounding purposes, there are 2 people who are the taxpayers in each, so there are about 3,000 taxpayers. Finally, and most importantly tonight, there are all of you, the voters. I'm told the attendee count, well, the average attendee count on a night like tonight ranges between 200 and 300. It might go up higher tonight because we've got some interesting things to talk about. But let's just say it's 250 folks in this room right now who are the voters. That's somewhere between 5 and 10% of the residents. Think about that. You make all the important decisions. You decide how tax dollars are spent. You decide how the town is to be run. You decide how to preserve and protect what we all, perhaps in different ways, have come to love about living in Sherborn. Sherborn, it has so many special attributes. Great schools, it's a safe place to live. Natural splendor is everywhere. It's small, so neighbors get to know and care about other neighbors. And its citizens are smart. With our talent pool, we're fortunate so many volunteer time and money way beyond the numbers that you find in this booklet. Sherborn, it's a wonderful place to raise a family, to grow old, and to make lifelong friends in. Sherborn, it's a small haven from the rest of the world. But Sherborn, this way of life costs a lot of money. Tonight you will be deciding how and how much should be spent on Sherborn. This way of life also requires rules to preserve and protect Sherborn. You will be deciding some of those rules. This way of life faces many challenges if it is to continue for future generations, and you will be deciding how some of those challenges should best be met. I hope you are able to read this report very carefully. Advisory was very articulate in reminding you of what we face as a community, and their summaries of the various articles and positions they have taken on them can be very useful as you make your own decisions on how you're going to vote tonight. This year, once again, you're not being asked for an override. With effective school leadership and perhaps a bit of luck, we have dodged the special ed out-of-district cost increase that we've historically seen over the years, sometimes ranging in the 10%. This year we're seeing real declines there. This, coupled with frugal ways from our budget makers, enables us to meet the ever-increasing costs of health and retirement benefits that continue to eat up a larger piece of the Proposition 2.5 budget pie. I don't expect we're always going to be this fortunate in future budget cycles. Also this year, you're going to be asked to replace, repair, and maintain costly equipment and facilities. The reality is this stuff grows old, wears out from use. So do I. Somebody's got to pay for it at some time to meet basic service levels. Like last year, you're also being asked to consider clarifying and changing the way the town is governed. The decisions you make tonight may impact town management for years to come. Besides some tweaking of existing regulations and zoning rules, the town faces a major challenge or opportunity, depending on how you view it. As tonight you're being asked to consider changing our zoning to allow a major development that may have significant impact on all of us, but perhaps in different ways. You, the voters, will decide these things. So please, ask questions, speak your piece, know the facts, understand the issues, and make your decisions. We may not all vote the same way, but we are all neighbors doing what we think is best for Sherborn. Thanks for being residents, taxpayers, and especially tonight voters. Enjoy your town meeting.
Thank you, Peter. And now we'll hear from Mary Wolfe from Advisory.
Good evening. First, I'd like to take care of a couple of little housekeeping events, I guess you'd call them. The first thing is I'd like to draw your attention to the $195,000 appropriation to the reserve fund and just give you a little explanation for that so that at the time the voting comes to that, you'll understand what's going on. That is $195 appropriation to line 900, the reserve fund in the omnibus budget. We had originally budgeted $60,000 for the reserve fund, as over the past 5 years, the town has averaged $58,000 in spending for this line item, with lower amounts of $22,000 and $36,000 for the past 2 years. After nailing down the budgets and after spending $146,000 in cash on capital projects, we had $135,000 remaining to use to build our free cash reserves, which would keep our free cash balance at over 3% of our total budget within the DOR, Department of Revenue, best practice guidelines. But it turns out that it is not possible to actually appropriate money to free cash. All monies must be appropriated to a line item in the budget. For this reason, we have chosen to appropriate the $135,000 to the reserve fund, where it will not be spent. Advisory controls the reserve fund, and barring some completely unforeseen emergency, for which we would have to use free cash in any case, the $135,000 appropriated for FY15 to the reserve fund will fall out to free cash at the end of the year. So do not become alarmed at that large appropriation or wonder what it's for. That is the explanation for that. The other thing I'd like to draw your attention to is to line 911 of the omnibus budget, as well as to Article 31, which together seek to appropriate and transfer over $300,000, or not over, exactly $300,000 to the OPEB liability trust. Over the past few years, we've begun to fund our OPEB obligation, that's other post-employment benefits, to the town's employees by appropriating money to the OPEB stabilization fund. But the newest Government Accounting Standards Bureau regulations do not recognize funds appropriated to stabilization as truly being reserved for OPEB and do not give credit on the town's balance sheet for funds so appropriated. Also, funds in stabilization accounts earn only short-term interest, which is basically 0%. By placing OPEB funds in the trust, this will both allow those funds to be recognized as appropriated for funding our obligation, and they'll be designated as such on our balance sheet, and it allows those funds to gain from a much higher interest rate. So this year, both line 911 of the omnibus budget and Article 31 specify appropriation and transfer of funds to the OPEB liability trust. So Peter covered also many of the things that I wanted to say, but I wrote the speech, so I'm going to say them anyway. That's all right. The good news. As you know from the report you received on the warrant that you have with you tonight, hopefully, the FY15 budget is balanced with no dip into free cash. Free cash sits at 3.65% of the town's budget, within the best practice guidelines of the Department of Revenue. And we were able this year to fund 3 capital items with cash, saving approximately $20 on the average tax bill. We were also very, very lucky. Most of our luck derives from a greater than $500,000 reduction in special ed out-of-district expenses from FY14, resulting from a combination of bringing back to district some students who had until now been in OOD placements, with a small cohort of students leaving the system altogether. It is extremely unlikely that we will see that kind of reduction again next year or in any predictable pattern over subsequent years. In fact, OOD and SPED costs are almost entirely unpredictable, as the mix of students and their individual needs change year to year and sometimes even within a single year. Typically, as Peter noted, we have seen increases in OOD SPED costs of 10% each year. So that reduction was just huge for the town. By law, Without an override vote, the budget can only grow 2.5% max each year, though of course there's no requirement that it grow even that much. To remain within that parameter, advisory set guidance at 1.4%. But omitting the costs and savings attributable to OOD placements, the Pine Hill regular education budget increased $288,000, or about 4%. Sherborn's share of the regional budget increased approximately 5%. Neither of these figures includes the purchase and debt service costs for capital items for the schools. Also not including capital items, the police budget is up almost 6% for FY15. While the operating budget for the fire department increased only 1.7%, if the new fire truck is approved tonight and in the upcoming election, it will add approximately $70 to the average tax bill for 15 years to come, with some decrease per year. General insurance rose 6.4%, and employee benefits rose 7.3%. The overall budget increased by 2.6%, which is still above the 2.5%. Again, without the reductions attributable to OOD, our town budget would have increased overall by 3.5%, not 2.6%. So, as we have noted in our letter to the town concerning this FY15 budget, although we have achieved stability this year, we have not achieved sustainability. Our excellent schools are very expensive. Our rural character comes with the price tag of large tracts of protected lands contributing little or nothing to tax revenues. Our public safety services require the same amount and type of equipment as would those for a town twice our size. We are still funding only at a minimum level our retirement health insurance obligation, our OPEBs, to our town employees, and we are not funding at all our OPEB obligation to the employees of the regional schools. So advisory calls upon all stakeholders in the town, elected and appointed officials, budget makers, and citizens, to reassess the way we do business. Beginning in FY13 and continuing through the FY15 budget we will vote on tonight, we've been doing a pretty good job of managing our expenses, but that is not enough. We now need also to increase our revenues. Whether we do that through managed growth, through the appeal of a vibrant downtown, or some other way, it needs to happen, and it needs to happen soon. Finally, we need to combine these two approaches of managing expenses and increasing revenues using things like regionalization within and without our borders, seeking grants and other available subsidies, and finding other creative ways and taking advantage of resources that are available to us. So advisory asks all the citizens tonight to think hard when you vote, to vote the best interests of the town, and to enjoy your town meeting, because it's a great opportunity for democracy.
Thank you, Mary. I'd like to begin by saying that unless you've had the opportunity to be up on this stage, you may not be aware that acoustics works both ways. On occasion, I've heard some mutterings from the back, "Parliamentary procedure be damned." And I'd like to make a short case for the value of parliamentary procedure. They're the rules of the road that allow groups of people to conduct business in a fair, orderly, and predictable way. They protect the right of the minority to be heard. At the same time, they allow the majority to move ahead and complete the group's business, and they protect us all from a train wreck. The procedures of a town meeting are different from what you may know in a fraternal organization or club, because a town meeting is a deliberative legislative body that must complete its agenda. Our Sherborn town meeting procedures reflect state statute, local bylaws, best practices of the Mass Moderators Association, and local tradition. I'll go over a quick review of our basic procedures. At any time during the evening, if you are confused about a procedure, please do not hesitate to ask for clarification. And please excuse me for sort of reading these. First of all, the agenda for tonight's meeting is the warrant that you received in the mail. And that is what you should refer to this evening as we go through our business. And I hope you noticed the note on the back that said, please bring it with you to town meeting. Secondly, a motion must be put on an agenda item before the meeting. The warrant does not get it before the meeting. It requires a motion. I will recognize a member of the advisory committee or an article signatory to make the initiating main motions. If you wish to speak on a motion at the time of debate, you must ask the moderator to be recognized. All conversation is directed through and to me, and I would remind you that we do not have side conversations between speakers and other people who may be in the auditorium. To speed things along, I would ask that you not raise your hand in your seat, but that when you want to speak, that you already be lining up at one of the two microphones. There's one in the center rear, and there's one down here in the front. And then I will recognize you at the microphone. Before you speak, please identify yourself and let us know your address. Once you're recognized, your comments must be relevant to the motion. The phrase that's commonly used is within the four corners of the article or the motion, and your comments must be limited to 2 minutes. I will not recognize the speaker a second time until all others who wish to speak have had an opportunity to do so. And if you do receive recognition to make a second comment, it must contain new information, not a reiteration of what you said before. My objective is always to move the proceedings along as fairly and as efficiently as possible, and as my predecessor wisely counseled me, once something's been said, everybody doesn't have to repeat it. Let's complete our business this evening before we're all frazzled. Next, because thorough presentations can help debate and preemptively answer questions, I will allow up to 5 minutes for presenters who have filed a request form with me, and they will have access to use the AV material if they want to. A timekeeper is sitting in the front row this evening, if she'd like to wave her red card, and she will wave a red card and also have an audible timer when your allotted time to speak is up. Because we have a very full agenda, I will be very firm this evening in observing the limits, and I hope you will understand if I interrupt you when your time is up and ask you to please yield to the microphone. Better yet, take a look at the red card and stop yourself. An alternative, all alternate main motions and amendments to a main motion must be submitted in writing to the town clerk, who has forms for that purpose. No more than 2 amendments can be on the floor at any one time, and the vote is first taken on the amendments and then the main motion. Sometimes the main motion made by advisory is a negative motion, that is, a vote to take no action. A negative motion must be defeated before an affirmative motion can be put before town meeting. I'll explain this further when we hit that situation. Our normal procedure is to use a voice vote on all measures. We will have a count of hands by the tellers in 2 circumstances. One, if the vote is not absolutely clear to me, or secondly, if 7 voters immediately after I call the vote question it, and then we will have a hand count. That is holding up the yellow cards. On motions requiring a two-thirds majority, we will try for a unanimous voice vote. If a voice vote is not unanimous but is clearly two-thirds, under Sherborn's bylaw, the moderator may declare the motion as being adopted by at least two-thirds of those voting. Again, if it's not clear to me, or if 7 voters challenge the vote immediately after it's declared, we will have a count of hands by the tellers. And I also would like to remind you that on any vote, 50 voters may request a vote by secret ballot, by paper ballot. And the last procedural point, I will read only the titles of the articles printed in your advisory committee report. And this information also will be appearing tonight on the screen to your left. If at any time you would like to have the complete text of a motion restated, please ask. And finally, a reminder. Political discourse can be intense, but tonight in this place, we gather to promote the common good of all of Sherborn's citizens and not just our own self-interest. I remind you to always speak with respect and civility. Personal remarks or speculation about others' motives are always out of order, and I will call them so. I'm grizzled enough to know that repetition and escalating passion seldom work to your advantage. Tonight we may agree and disagree, but tomorrow we will still be neighbors and friends in one community. So let's begin with Article 1 of the warrant. Are you applauding for parliamentary procedure? Go. Article 1, Town Report. Yes.
I move that the reports of the town officers and committees as contained in the annual report be accepted with the correction that the governance task force should be listed as appointed by the town moderator.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any debate on the motion? Yes, Mr. Shea. The mic down front, I think, needs to be turned on.
I'd like to move to amend the motion.
Your name and address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. George Shea, 19 Deerfield Road, Sherborn, Massachusetts, 01770. I'd like to move to amend the motion that's just made in the following way. I'd like to add after the last word accepted in the motion as made, with the exception. I'm sorry.
Could you speak directly into the mic?
Oh, sure. With the exception of the report of the governance task force, which is an interim report, and that the governance task force is to be continued. Any explanation that you'd like?
I'm not sure anyone could hear that. Did you hear? Can I suggest that perhaps you turn the mic around, and that you stand and look directly into it when you're speaking?
Instead of looking at you.
Correct. I'll hear you.
That's a terrible choice. I move that we amend the motion as made by adding at the end of that motion, with the exception of the report of the governance task force, which is an interim report, and that the governance task force is to continue.
Is there a second to the amendment? Second. It's been moved and seconded that we amend the initial motion by identifying the governance task force report as interim and that they continue in their work. Is there any discussion on the amendment? If not, let's take a vote. All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Amendment passes. Now we'll vote on the amended main motion. That is to accept the reports with the exception of and to accept an interim report from the governance task force and continue its work. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Passes unanimously. Article 2, unpaid bills.
Madam Moderator,
Yes, Mr. Williams.
I move that the sum of $2,602.50 be transferred from free cash in the Treasury for the purpose of paying bills dated 2013 from West Publishing, $132.50, Flagship Press, $914, Beaver Solutions, $1,556.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any debate? Yes.
Elliot Taylor, 30 North Main Street. I see item 3 here, Beaver Solutions, $1,500. I'm opposed to spending any money for beavers other than that to exterminate them. I told Mass Audubon about 25 years ago, get rid of the beavers. They say, oh, those are nature's engineers, blah, 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 and so on and so on. I says, we have septic systems in Sherborn. We cannot raise groundwater levels or we'll wipe out the septic systems and goodbye house. Oh, beavers are great, great, great. The only good beaver is a dead one. I picked up 2 of them near the transfer station about a week ago that were dead in the road. I said, hallelujah. But so I'm opposed to spending any money for beavers, and 2 minutes is ridiculous. And please don't interrupt me if I go beyond 2 minutes, or you'll be sorry. Thank you.
Article 3, we have to vote on the beavers. Is there any further? Yes. Is there any further debate? This will require a 4/5 vote, so as close as we can come to unanimous, it would be very helpful. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. Motion passes by 4/5. Article 3.
I move that the numbered items appearing in
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I can't declare 4/5. We have to count. So we'll have to go back, and I need you to take out your yellow cards. All of those who are in favor, please raise your yellow card and keep it up until you have been told by a teller that you can drop it. You're in favor of paying the unpaid bills for services that have already been rendered. Yes. Sorry. I was just shocked. Can I go ahead to the nays? Tellers? Oh. Okay. Okay. Tellers, the fifth row in the center section questions whether they were counted. Who did the center section? Sixth row. There's still some cards up in the air over here. I think those may be the folks who are concerned they weren't counted. Okay, so there was somebody at the other end that counted them? Who counted on this side? Okay, the head teller assures us you were counted. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we're ready for the nay votes. Those people who do not want to pay the unpaid bills. If you could please raise your cards. Okay, the results are yay 301, nay 16. The motion passes. Article 3, the omnibus budget.
Madam Moderator, I move that the numbered items appearing in the Advisory Committee's fiscal year 2015 omnibus budget and the amount indicated in the column under the heading Recommended FY 2015 be called over by the moderator, and if no objection is made, that such amounts be raised and appropriated for the purpose specified, except that where a transfer is indicated by a numbered footnote, the specified amount shall be provided by such transfer, that the salaries for the various town officers, including those indicated by numbered footnotes, be fixed effective July 1st, 2014, as specified in the omnibus budget that becomes effective pursuant to this motion, and that any item to which objection is made be separately considered and disposed of in accordance with the vote of the town.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I am going to read the lines of the omnibus budget. If you want to discuss or debate one of those lines, please call out "hold," and we will return to it later. Once I get to the end of the reading, we will have one vote for all of those items that were not held, and then we will return to the held lines and consider them individually. Has everybody got that? Okay, we'll begin with general government, selectmen salaries, $487. Selectmen expenses, $27,950. Legal counsel, $65,000. Solid waste expenses, $263,000. Assessor salaries, $102,173. Assessor's expenses, $13,880. Treasurer salaries, $107,851. Treasurer expenses, $26,697. Tax collector salaries, $95,661. Tax collector's expenses, $20,106. Accountant salaries, $87,869. Accountant expenses, $9,650. Accountant annual audit, $25,000. Advisory salaries, $460. Advisory expenses, $3,350. Planning board salaries, $44,021. Planning board expenses, $1,560. Town clerk salaries, $86,137. Town clerk expenses, $5,308. Election salaries, $28,866. Election expenses, $13,768. Town buildings, $195,150. Police salaries, $1,332,709. 88,200 police expenses, 46,500 police cruiser. Fire and rescue salaries, $357,831. Fire and rescue expenses, $99,230. Building inspector salaries, $69,559. Building inspector expenses, $3,000. Dover Sherborn Regional School assessment, $8,995,182. Tri-County vocational, $29,532. Sherborn Schools, $6,746,470. Norfolk Agricultural, $94,081. CM&D salaries, $538,488. CM&D expenses, $368,173. Board of Health salaries, $62,431. Board of Health expenses, $63,851. Library salaries, $268,015. Library expenses, $131,889. Recreation expenses, $10,100. Farm pond salaries, $90,000. Farm pond expenses, $16,750. Council on Aging salaries, $100,100. Council on Aging expenses, $24,650. Conservation salaries, $46,526. Conservation expenses, $4,978. Veterans expenses, $5,900. Historical Commission, $500. Recycling expenses, $3,997. Cemetery expenses, $58,670. Elderly housing expenses, $183,259. General insurance, $176,800. Employee benefits, $2,136,722. Other post-employment benefits, $100,000. Debt service total, $1,469,576. Reserve account, $195,000. For a total of $25 million, don't I wish, $376,613. As I heard it, there were no holds. In that case, is there any further debate? If not, all those in favor of the omnibus budget, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. It's a majority vote. Article 4, collective bargaining.
Madam Moderator, I
Yes.
move that no action be taken.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that no action be taken. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Article 5, supplemental to the FY 2014 budget.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Rubin.
I move favorable action and that the sum of $359,101 be appropriated, and that for this appropriation, $130,949.73 be funded by the overlay release, and the $228,151.27 be transferred from free cash in the Treasury for the purpose of supplementing the fiscal year 2014 omnibus operating budget as printed in the handout for this town meeting. And further, that $25,000 be transferred from fiscal year 2014 CM&D payroll to fiscal year 2014 CM&D expenses. Police overtime and holiday payroll, $75,000. Police expenses, $5,000. Snow and ice payroll, $40,000. Snow and ice expenses, $180,000. Legal expenses, $35,000. Library expenses, $3,170. Town treasurer payroll, $4,161. Town clerk expenses, fireproof lateral file, $3,540. Town building expenses, computers, $11,230, and assessors payroll, $2,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any debate on this motion? If not, this is a majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Madam Moderator?
Yes. Article 6, the highway funds. Ms. Rellis.
Madam Moderator, I move that the Board of Selectmen be authorized to apply for, accept, and expend any state aid for highway improvements made available to the town under the authority of General Laws, Chapter 90, and that any necessary borrowing in anticipation of such state aid be approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any debate on this motion? If not, it's a majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Yes, it's Article 7, revolving funds. You guys are quick. Mr. Pollack.
Will be making 4 separate motions under Article 7. I move that council Council on Aging be authorized to spend up to $100,000 from the remaining funds and anticipated revenues in such revolving fund without further appropriation for salaries, expenses, and contractual services required to operate transportation, meal, and special activity programs during fiscal year 2015, and that such revolving fund be credited with the balance remaining in such revolving fund at the end of fiscal year 2014, and with all fees and charges received during fiscal year 2015 for persons participating in Council on Aging programs.
Is there a second? Second. I'm not sure that the mics, can you all hear these people that are talking? I'm not sure the mics are all turned on, and could I ask those of you at the table to speak up? Okay. Thank you. Is there any debate on this motion? This is authorizing revolving funds and the Council on Aging. If not, we'll proceed to the vote. It's a majority. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Yes, Ms. Kantorsky.
I move that the Board of Health revolving fund be reauthorized pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2, that the Board of Health be authorized to spend up to $5,000 from the anticipated revenue in such revolving fund without further appropriations for salaries, expenses, and contractual services required to operate flu shot clinics during fiscal year 2015, and that such revolving fund be credited with all fees and charges received during fiscal year 2015 in connection with the conduct of flu shot clinics.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any debate on this question? If not, this is a majority vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Madam Moderator.
Yes, Mr. Barsabian.
I move that the Recycling Committee revolving fund be reauthorized pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2, that the Recycling Committee be authorized to spend up to $2,000 from the anticipated revenues in such revolving fund without further appropriation for expenses and contractual services required to operate a program to sell compositing bins during fiscal year 2015, and that such a revolving fund be credited with all fees and charges received during fiscal year 2015 in connection with the sale of compositing bins.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any debate on this item? If not, it's a majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Madam Moderator.
Mr. Williams.
I move that the Town Forest Committee revolving fund be reauthorized pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2, that the Town Forest Committee be authorized to spend up to $5,000 from the anticipated revenues in such revolving fund without further appropriation for expenses and contractual services required to operate a program to sell firewood during fiscal year 2015, and that such revolving fund be credited with all fees and charges received during fiscal year 2015 in connection with the sale of firewood.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any debate on this motion? If not, it's a majority. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Madam Moderator?
Are we going to do Article 8?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, Article 8, capital expenditures. Mr. Waldron.
Madam Moderator, advisory will be making 8 separate motions under Article 8. The first one is the fire department ladder truck, line 1. I move that the sum of $900,000 be appropriated to purchase a new fire department ladder truck, and that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, shall be authorized to borrow $900,000 pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7-9, or any other applicable statute, provided, however, that this appropriation shall not take effect until the town votes to exempt from the limitation on total taxes imposed by the general laws, Chapter 59, Section 21C, Prop 2.5, the amounts required to pay the principal and interest on the bonds and notes authorized by this vote.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I believe we'll have a presentation by Chief Morrissey.
Thanks for your indulgence, Madam Moderator. The fire department is in the... I can hear me. I don't know. There we go. The fire department's in the process of needing to replace the engine 1 ladder engine that we've had in town for a number of years. Fire delivery and service in Sherborn. Our delivery model requires specialized equipment because we have no municipal water in town. We depend upon a relay pumping operation to use our dry hydrants. And we need to have trucks with large water tanks so that fire suppression efforts can continue while we're trying to get to those dry hydrants. This requires large fire pumps and piping to move higher volumes of water. We are a call department, so our staffing needs are challenged. And we're not like Framingham and Natick, who are more municipal water sources. You'll have to indulge me, my glasses broke this morning. So I'm trying to see fuzzy things.
Can I tell you it's a milk can now, Chief?
Yeah. Current structural pieces that you've seen around town include the ladder truck, the reel truck. Additional fire equipment that we have an off-road engine, a brush truck. We also have the ambulance, which we run in town. Just a mind, as we were talking about other things, thinking out of the box, the ambulance does bring in revenue to the town on an annual basis. What does Engine 1 do? It's our primary attack engine. It does rescue at a fire scene or an emergency. It has fire suppression capabilities, ventilation capabilities. It carries 1,500 gallons of water, has the aerial device and the equipment that we carry. Types of calls that it goes to, of course, structure fires, gas calls, alarm activations. Why do we need to replace it now? It's old, it's rusting. Its reliability is becoming a problem. Increased costs for repairs. This year alone, we've had it in and out of the shop in Hopkinton, as recent as yesterday. It has been on the town's capital plan for years. Delaying purchase is only going to increase the cost to build and to finance, and it is favorable now. New truck will take approximately 18 months, 12 to 18 months. We're replacing it with what we call a quint truck. It has hose, water ladders, it has the aerial device pump. It's an all-in-one truck. We're hoping for at least 750 gallons of water. Some manufacturers have promised us up to 1,500. Comes with a foam system, A heavy-duty real aerial ladder versus the lighter duty one we have. A strong pump to move the water we have to move over long distances. Ground ladders, equipment, it's designed for Sherborn. We have to design a truck for this town because of our unique rural character. Why purchase it? It's cost effective. We'll get the most out of it. Again, we're paying for an old truck and a lot of repairs. If we were to buy a used vehicle, why don't we do that? Because it has 2 liters of water, smaller pumps. Its foam system could be outdated. The size of the truck may not even fit into our station. A majority of them are well worn. That's why they're used. The costs and the operational costs, repair costs are going to begin. If we buy a used truck, we're already paying for that. Somebody else's problem. Getting a new truck is going to give us 20 to 25 years of good, reliable life. If we pass on it now, we're just kicking the can down the road by waiting a couple of years. Approximate cost. We've ranged from $750,000 to $900,000. When the warrant went in the fall, it was $900,000. A variety of manufacturers are out there. We're looking for competitive bidding to help with our costs. There are alternatives to financing. That's what the town can work on. Favorable interest rates. We even get a little bit of money from the sale of the truck we have currently. Procurement process. We'll get the best value that we can for the town by going out to bids. We use a sanitized bid process. We don't have anybody in mind. We're going to make sure that we get the best price for the town with the best options that meets the needs of this community. The town administrator is our chief procurement officer. He will work and oversee that. Thank you.
And congratulations on not calling the red card. Okay. Yes, I see there's someone standing at the mic in the back. Would you like to
Yes,
speak?
Warren Wheelwright, 137 Hunting Lane. Would the debt service for this rather large purchase kick in when the town's debt service starts to decline, which is a number of years away, or will that kick in when we have this high level of debt service? There is a fall off that you will see in your warrant article that you have in front of the papers. Can somebody answer when that debt service for this vehicle will kick in?
David Williams, Town Administrator. You need to speak directly into the mic.
Thank you. Basically, the debt service would be about 3 years out, so I'm not sure what you're looking at there, but the short-term debt service would be short-term borrowed. The end of next year, the following year would be long-term borrowed. It would hit your tax bill the following year.
Okay. Did you hear that, Warren?
No, I did not. And I assume others did not as well.
The debt service would hit basically 3 years from now on your tax bill.
The third year. Now, is the debt service high level that we have started to fall off when that
Warren,
kicks in?
if you have further questions, the question goes to me. Remember,
Okay.
I talked about speaking directly. You wanted to ask me if you can ask another question?
Yes, I want to know, with that debt service kicks in for the fire truck, does it kick in when we have a declining overall debt service on the town, or are we raising our debt service level now?
I can't answer that without the treasurer saying what the retirement service is.
Is there someone from Capital Budget who could possibly answer that, or advisory?
Bob Searle, 32 Old Orchard Road, Capital Budget Committee. Yeah, the debt service will continue to rise based on current projections, which will include this truck through fiscal 2018, and then we'll start to taper off after that. So yeah, there's still a continued slight rising. But as a percentage of budget, total budget, we project it falling because the overall budget is going to grow faster than debt service as it's currently being projected.
Thank you.
Moderator, may I make a comment then?
Sure.
Yeah, this is an exorbitant expenditure. We didn't have this fire truck last year. We didn't have it the year before. We did step up to expand our commitment to fire service by having a full-time fire chief. Now, to immediately then have an enormous expenditure follow on that, seems to me, we could all look at this critically and say, could it wait another year or a year after? Just because inflation's going to kick in on the purchase, that would have been true last year and the year before. What we're looking at is our total budget, and all of you are going to be voting on it tonight and also as an override on May 13th. Look critically, because there's been an argument that these expenses are fixed for this town. They're not fixed. We can defer it. And would you rather do that than sell our Sherborn to a major out-of-town developer? Think twice when you vote. Thanks.
Excuse me. Yes.
Just to let you know, the selectmen voted unanimously in support of this. I thank Chief Morrissey for giving his presentation, particularly without his glasses. I understood he broke them today, fighting an administrative fire of some sort. So, but we pushed him hard on the proving that the need was there, and we came around in unanimous support. Thank you.
Any other further debate? Yes. Yes.
The presentation was as if that was the only truck. It was identified as first responder and so forth. What about all those other trucks I saw in the picture? Isn't there some juggling of those that one of them can be the first responder if that ladder truck doesn't start up?
Okay. First of all, could you give me us your name and address?
I'm sorry, Joe Carchidi, Woodland Street, 33 Woodland Street.
Okay, thank you. And Chief, could you answer the question?
Of course, any of our apparatus, our first line or other supporting engines can be an attack engine. The way our strategy and tactics are developed is to have this engine one with the aerial device in the driveway, in closest to the home, to be our attack piece, because it has the versatility of using that ladder to get to higher elevations. Rescues can be made from it. It has the hose. Whereas we'll put our tanker out at the end of the road, the real truck to go and supply from wherever our water source is, and then one of our other engines to come and support that. So it's part of a strategy and tactics that has been developed in Sherborn for many, many years. And we like it the way it works because it's very efficient.
Okay. I'm going to go to the back and then I'll come up here. Yes, in the rear.
Jonathan Dallas, 100 North Main Street. To Warren's question, this isn't adding a new truck to our fleet. This is replacing an existing truck and updating the equipment that we have and the truck we have. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, Neil.
Neil McPherson, Great Rock Road. I want to point out, as the prior fire chief, that this has been in the capital budget for many years. It's been part of our 10-year budget plan. As it was noted before, this is one of the two primary attack engines. Two of the engines you saw, one was a real truck that goes and lays a line from the fire scene to a water source, and engine 3 is actually a tanker. I also want to point out this truck serves a very special purpose. It's about our ability to fight a fire in terms of ventilation. It's about the firefighter safety in terms of ventilation. It's about our ability to rescue people. The number one reason we need to replace this truck is reliability. I happen to drive this truck often because of the proximity of the station and my home. And I can tell you, over the past 6 months, this truck has broken down 3 times when I've been using it. So the reality becomes we have a fire service model that works very well. Right? This is an important piece of the fire service model that we use, in the sense it carries the water, it has a ladder on top, it has specialized equipment that other trucks don't carry, and as Chief Morrissey said, surrounding communities don't have a truck like this because of the equipment it carries, because of the water it carries, because of the size. So remember, what we're talking about here is reliability, our ability to get to your house and to be able to provide the service that we need to provide in emergency situations. So I just want to clarify those points. Thank you.
Yes. If there are no further comments, I'm sorry, did you want to speak or were you just standing up? Okay.
If there are no further comments, we'll proceed to the vote. This motion will require 2/3 approval. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. Motion passes. Line 2, Police Command Vehicle.
Ms. Moderator,
Mr. Rudin.
I move that the sum of $45,000 be transferred from free cash. I move that the sum of $45,000 be transferred from free cash in the Treasury to purchase a new Police Department command vehicle.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I understand we have a presentation from the Chief.
Good evening, Madam Moderator. Chief Richard Thompson from the Sherborn Police Department. Freudian slip there. As first responders, the police department must be prepared to handle a myriad of emergency situations when our residents, visitors to our town, and our neighboring communities are counting on us to help. Missing persons, weather emergencies, crime scenes, railway mishaps, school-related incidents, and mutual aid. All emergent situations that the police department would have to respond to. From an operational standpoint, the incidents we respond to occur in the field. To best address critical incidents, we must be mobile and bring our office and tools to the scene. There's a picture of some of the equipment we're looking to put in the back of this vehicle. Therefore, we identified the need to introduce a police command vehicle to our fleet, the Chevrolet Tahoe PPV, the police patrol vehicle. It will look similar to that. The Chevrolet PPV was selected because it is the only police-rated SUV that has the capacity to house the equipment needed to respond and deploy effectively during an emergent situation. We compared the Chevrolet PPV to the Ford and Dodge police-rated vehicles that are on the state bid listing and found the Chevrolet PPV to be the superior product. Additionally, our state bid vendor, Liberty Chevrolet, has proven to be the most supportive dealership to our police department. They've been a voice of the manufacturer and helped to save costs to the town when vehicle maintenance is required beyond what our CM&D mechanic is able to address. Additionally, the police department will be replacing our 2005 Ford Crown Victoria unmarked vehicle that we were forced to utilize in a patrol capacity. This is the beautiful car that's been sitting at the CM&D lot since November. Here's some pictures of the interior of the vehicle. I want to emphasize that your police officers were using this to respond to emergency calls for almost a year. Our 2005 Ford Crown Victoria was to be utilized as a spare patrol vehicle, as well as for use by officers when attending training, transporting evidence to our state lab, and for court appearances. The spare vehicle allows us to minimize mileage and wear and tear in our patrol fleet and gives us an option when our patrol fleet is being serviced. We grounded this vehicle in November when we learned it needed approximately $4,500 in repairs to pass inspection. This is the third consecutive year that we had to ground a patrol vehicle in the Sherborn Police Department. Our 2010 all-wheel drive Ford Taurus will replace the 2005 Ford Crown Victoria. Here's a listing of the police vehicles that we utilize in the police department. We have 5 that we use in a patrol capacity, 2 in an administrative capacity, and 1 as a detective's vehicle. The estimated cost for the Chevy Tahoe PPV is $36,000. The command cabinet that we'll be putting in the rear of the vehicle is approximately $4,000. You're looking for 2 mobile radios at approximately $2,000. A tough computer at $2,500 and a radio charging bank at $500. Total cost of $45,000. Ultimately, we believe the Chevrolet Tahoe PPV command vehicle will exceed a 10-year life expectancy, and we believe our spare 2010 all-wheel drive Ford Taurus will exceed a 10-year life expectancy if utilized in its intended capacity. We are addressing 2 needs with this capital purchase.
Thank you. Pat, could I get someone to block the... Thank you. Is there any debate?
Yes.
Just to let you know, Selectmen, we're in support of this. The snazzy presentation by the chief really helped.
Thank you. Your mic wasn't
Didn't
on,
hear me?
Peter.
Just the mic wasn't on, sorry. The Selectmen are in unanimous support of this acquisition, and we
Okay.
really like the chief's presentation. Thank you.
If there's no further debate, we'll proceed to the vote. This is a majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. Motion passes. Line 3 is the Snow Fighter dump truck.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Rubin.
I move that the sum of $175,000 be appropriated for the purchase of a dump truck for the Community Maintenance and Development Department, and that the Treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, shall be authorized to borrow $175,000 pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7-9, or any other applicable statute, provided, however, that this appropriation shall not take effect until the town votes to exempt from the limitation on total taxes imposed by the General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 21, CK, Proposition 2.5, the amounts required to pay the principal and interest on the bonds and notes authorized by this vote.
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded. I see some action down in the front. I do not have a presentation request form, but is there an intent to make a presentation?
Yes.
I guess that's a yes.
Yes.
Edward Wagner, Director of CMD. This year we're looking, our capital request is to replace our truck number 22. This vehicle is a 2000 Mack. It has 45,000 miles, 5,900 hours. It has a 12-foot reversible plow and combination dump and sanding body. The primary uses of this vehicle is as a frontline snow fighter, asphalt hauling, material hauling, roadway repairs. Our main reasons for replacement of this vehicle is its age, condition, dependability, future repair costs, safety, and it's also in accordance with our current replacement schedule. We have deterioration of the frame rails, we have suspension corrosion, and we have a number of hydraulic and electrical issues with this vehicle. We're looking to replace this with a 2014 International 7300 series vehicle. It will have a combination dump and sander body, a 12-foot reversible plow, sander controls, safety lighting system, radio system, and the cost of this vehicle is $175,000. In short, this snow fighter is one of our 5 large plow sanders in our fleet and is responsible for over 65 miles of roadway during snow and ice operations. Dependability is paramount during snow operations. Repair cost is a non-issue if this truck is not operational during snowstorms. Given the nature of these vehicles, given the nature in which these vehicles are utilized, it is not uncommon for them to experience systematic failures at the end of their expected lifespan. Wiring, frame, body, suspension, and hydraulic systems. Our current inventory consists of 5 snow fighter dump trucks, 3 1-tons, 2 pickup trucks utilized by our foreman, 1 tree truck, which is used with our chipper and leaf vac, 1 loader, 1 backhoe, a street sweeper, a multi-purpose tractor, which we use with mowing, sweeping, sidewalk blowing, and also a compressor, which we utilize for our jackhammer and sign installations. In the upcoming years in 2015, in accordance with our replacement schedule, next year we're scheduled for $280,000 for the replacement of a loader, 2 1-ton dump trucks, and a pickup. In 2016, $255,000 for another snow fighter and a tree truck, and in 2017, $220,000 for a snow fighter and a pickup truck. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further debate? If not, we'll go to the vote. This requires 2/3. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. Motion passes. Line 4, fuel accounting software.
Madam Moderator,
Yes.
I move that the sum of $21,000 be appropriated to purchase and install new hardware and software for the fuel management system, and that the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, shall be authorized to borrow $21,000 pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7, 9, 28, 29, or any other applicable statute, provided, however, that this appropriation shall not take effect until the town votes to exempt from the limitation on total taxes imposed by the General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 21 CK, Proposition 2.5, the amounts required to pay the principal and interest on the bonds and notes authorized by this vote.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any debate? If not, this also requires a 2/3 vote because it's a borrowing. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Line 5, transfer station paving and water drainage project.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Pollack.
I move that the sum of $115,000 be appropriated for the purpose of funding a paving and overlay and drainage system project at the Sherborn Transfer Station to complete the project approved at the 2013 annual town meeting, and that for this appropriation, $65,000 be transferred from free cash in the Treasury and $50,000 be transferred from funds appropriated for Article 8, Line 7 of the warrant at the 2013 annual town meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. There's a comment in the rear.
Yes, I'm Carol Rubenstein, 57 Oldfield Drive, Chair of the Recycling Committee, and the committee wants to go on record as being in favor of this project.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? If not, this is a majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Madam Moderator?
Line 6 is the Farm Pond Management Plan. Yes, Ms. Garantorsky?
I move that the sum of $24,500 be appropriated from free cash in the Treasury to fund a study of Farm Pond that would establish baseline knowledge of its current condition, evaluate the watershed, develop nutrient models, and make recommendations, if necessary, for protective action plans.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I understand there's a presentation? Yes.
Yes. I had a whole rap dance planned. Nobody wanted to do it. We good? Okay. Okay. Melinda O'Neill, 8 Fun Road. I'm representing the Farm Pond Advisory Committee tonight. We're a small group of volunteers appointed by the selectmen, and we advise them on matters related to Farm Pond. Tonight I'm here to encourage you to vote in favor of our lake management plan to protect Farm Pond. Just a bit of background, the Farm Pond Advisory Committee sponsored in 2011 an educational forum for the watershed residents of the pond about best practices for land use around the pond. And one of the concerns that was raised during that time was about the non-native invasive weeds that can hitchhike on boats. And so we added monitoring of washing of all the boats entering Farm Pond. You can see that right at the gatehouse when you drive in. In 2012, we started a campaign called Weed Watchers, and we had the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation come in. We invited citizens to join us, and they taught us about the weeds or plants that belong in Farm Pond and the ones that we do not want to see there. And then last summer, we took our show on the road, and we actually collected some plant samples from the pond, and we were down at the beach identifying them. Also, during the course of that training, the rep who came out asked us about the lake management plan for Farm Pond, and we didn't have one. So we want to tell you a little bit about what a lake management plan is. Unfortunately, for about 2/3 of the 3,000 lakes and ponds in Massachusetts, it's really a plan for mediation of weeds and pollutants such as phosphorus and nitrogen. In our case, we're in good shape. We feel like Farm Pond is pretty clean right now, and what we're really looking to do is develop baseline data, but we need professional help. So we need scientists, engineers, wetland specialists, trained field technicians. They can come in and really take lots and lots of technical data for us. They can collect and analyze water quality conditions and look for potential threats. They can do aquatic vegetation surveys, collect and analyze water samples and soil samples. They can create models. They'll take existing information that we already have within the town and create baseline maps with topographic information and watershed layers. And they can do a whole lot more, but I only have 5 minutes, so I can't tell you about the whole gig. But what they can do is take all that information, analyze and synthesize that data for us, and then they'll make recommendations for preservation or for action as necessary. They'll bring that draft report to us. We'll have a chance to walk through it. They'll go back and produce a final report with an implementation plan, and that will be shared with the selectmen. So why now, you ask? Farm Pond, you should know, is the only high-yield watershed resource completely within control of the town. And this irreplaceable resource really deserves the monitoring and protecting of a lake management plan. Currently, Sherborn's borders are surrounded by polluted lakes and ponds. These pollutants do not respect boundaries. Just take a drive down Speen Street. You know Fisk Pond right there by Roach Brothers. It's full of weeds. That machine that you see out there rakes at a cost of about $10,000 an acre. And that lasts for maybe a year if you're lucky, maybe 2 or 3 years tops, and then you're raking again. These pollutant problems such as weeds are really expensive. Farm Pond is about 124 acres. There's a small pond up in Gloucester called Niles Pond. They recently put together a lake management plan to cover the mediation of 12 acres of weeds of their 36-acre pond. It was $110,000 for hydro raking. And again, I'll remind you, that's only good for a couple of years. They're going to have to go back and do it again. So establishing these baseline conditions is really important to identifying potential problems before they become these exorbitantly expensive problems. As you can see, this proactive planning is cost-effective. We really all have a responsibility to make every reasonable effort to set up protection for Farm Pond. We can spend short money now for protection and preservation, or we can spend literally tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars for remediation later. So whether you swim or fish or sail, paddle, kayak, or canoe, take sailing lessons, swimming lessons, or just feel good knowing that Farm Pond is there when you need it, I ask that you please join us by voting yes in favor of a lake management plan to protect Farm Pond. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any debate or comments? If not, this is a majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. Motion passes.
Madam Moderator.
Yes, we're going to line 7, Pine Hill School capital needs. Mr. Barsamian.
I move that the sum of $112,000 be appropriated for various items of capital equipment and improvements to Pine Hill School, including the payment of all costs, incidentals, and related thereto, and that the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, shall be authorized to borrow $112,000 pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 73A9, or any other applicable statute, provided, however, that the appropriation shall not take effect until the town votes to exempt from the limitation on total taxes imposed by the General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 21CK, Proposition 2.5. The amounts required to pay the principal and interest on the bond and notes authorized by this vote.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and we have a presentation from the local school committee.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Frank Hess, 64 South Main Street, member of the school committee in the Pine Hill School Building Committee. As most of you know, because of a request from the Capital Budget Committee for more long-term capital needs information, the Sherborn Public Schools contracted for a firm to perform a study of the Pine Hill School physical plant and to project long-term viability and capital needs. We received this report in November of 2012, and since that time have been using the report to guide our capital request. The request before you is related to safety, health, energy efficiency, and suitability for learning. The request this year is for $112,000 and will be used to meet the following needs. Replace rooftop heating units in the cafeteria and kitchen. Replace auditorium windows. Replace rugs with tile in 8 library wing classrooms. Replace the art room floor and perform asbestos abatement. Replace failed drop-down ceiling insulation for hallways A, B, and C. Replace the tractor that is absolutely necessary for snow removal. And here are the approximate costs for the individual projects. The rooftop units will be $36,000 approximately, but we only need $6,000 in new money because we have money from previous town meetings. The auditorium windows are about $19,500. The flooring for the library classrooms around $27,000. The art, floor, and asbestos removal about $8,400. The hall insulation around $33,000, and the tractor $17,700. And that's the presentation. Thank you.
Is there any debate or discussion? Are you coming to the mic in the back, or are you just walking by? Walking by, okay. If not, we'll proceed to the vote. This requires the 2/3 approval because it's a borrowing. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. We are now up to line 8, the HVAC fire station.
Madam Moderator,
Yes, Ms. Wolf.
I move that no action be taken.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that no action be taken.
Moderator?
Yes.
We would like to ask the voters to vote down this no-action motion. It's come to us late in the game here in this process.
Excuse me, Peter. Can you hear Peter?
Okay, there we go. We're on. We would like to ask that the voters defeat this no-action motion. We have a short presentation to explain why and what the needs are, but basically what we're looking for came to us late in the game, that the project the voters approved last year to replace and repair the HVAC system at the fire station, the funds were not sufficient based on engineering studies that since have taken place. And in addition, while at it, we've determined that it would be prudent to also repair and replace components of the air conditioning part of that system. So we have a brief presentation.
Okay.
And then we would make an alternate motion if the no action vote is defeated.
Okay. Is it your proposal that you make the presentation now?
Yes, please.
Okay.
That gives us the 5-minute version.
Okay.
Could be less than that.
Good.
Good.
She's working in computer.
Not much.
There we go. For those of you who remember, this was at town meeting last year, and a request was made for insulation of our attic and our heating system. Since then, we've had professional engineering services come in. They sat down, they went through the whole building. We went through a bid phase with the RFP that was provided by the engineer, and we have chosen a low qualified bidder. The work is ready to commence. But as the chairman has said, we are a bit underfunded and we cannot proceed at this time. Last year, nearly $154,000 was approved. That was to include approximately $18,000 out of Green Communities grant money, We've spent the $35,000. The firehouse has been insulated. We'd have noticed quite a savings or warmth this winter after that. So we're roughly $136,000, $137,000 budgeted for the boiler portion of the project. Air conditioning replacement is going to cost approximately $37,000. What we have put in as well is that a project manager would be hired to oversee this. Currently, the town manager is our chief procurement officer, and it's up to either myself or somebody from the fire department to oversee that. I'm a fire chief. I am not a contractor. We've also put in for a contingency of 10%. Again, as anybody who's ever had any work done around their home, and you open up a wall, you never know what you're going to find. We don't want to come back before the Board of Selectmen to say that we need more money because of this or that or the other thing. So in a nutshell, we're looking at $72,000. Again, several deficiencies in the original mechanical systems must be fixed as per the engineer. The engineer we brought in was in the fall after last year's town meeting. Both of our AC units have been added to the project. Last summer, one of them failed, cost about $5,000 to repair. No warranty to that. It could fail again. It is old. They've told us it is in the best interest of the town to replace it. Now's the time to do it. We're going to have walls opened up. We're replacing piping. We're going to be replacing through the ceilings, the walls, all the way downstairs. Again, we all know from projects of our own, you don't want to reopen all of this. If we were to do that, the AC cost alone would be quite significant.
Any debate? If not, this is a majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay.
Nay. We were trying to defeat it.
Oh, okay. That's true. It was a negative motion, and I beg your pardon because I did say in my introductory comments I would explain it. Right. The motion is to take no action. That means that if you do not want to invest in the HVAC system, you would vote yes in favor of the motion to take no action. If you do want to have the system, you would vote no so that it would defeat the negative motion, and then someone could make a positive motion in favor of fixing the HVAC system. Everybody got that? Okay. So there is a negative motion to take no action. Those of you who want to take no action, that means not do HVAC, please say aye. Aye. Okay. Those who want to vote no, which means that you want to defeat this motion and ultimately take action, you got it? You're going to say nay. Those opposed say nay. Nay. I think the nays won. So the motion failed. Is there someone prepared to make a positive motion?
Yes, moderator.
Yes, Mr. Crusoe.
If I can make the motion?
Yes.
I move that the sum of $72,000 be appropriated for the purchase and installation of a new HVAC system and to make energy efficiency improvements at Fire Station Number 1, and that to meet this appropriation, the Treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, shall be authorized to borrow $72,000 pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7, 3A, 3B, 9, or any other applicable statute, provided, however, that this appropriation shall not take effect until the town votes to exempt from the limitation on total taxes imposed by the General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 21CK, which is Proposition 2.5, the amounts required to pay the principal and interest on the bonds and notes authorized by this vote.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Everybody understands this is the positive motion to do the work. All those in favor? Oh, by the way, this is a 2/3 vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. The 2/3 has it. Moving on to warrant article number 9, regional school capital expenditures.
Madam Moderator,
Yes, Mr. Williams.
I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $143,545.50 for the purpose of paying its allocable share of the costs of various items of major equipment and building improvements, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto for the Dover-Sherborn Regional School District, pursuant to an intergovernmental agreement with the Dover-Sherborn Regional School District and the town of Dover, to provide funding for such items, and that the Treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, shall be authorized to borrow $143,545.50 pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7, 3A9, or any other applicable statute, provided, however, that this appropriation shall not take effect until the town votes to exempt from the limitation on total taxes imposed by the General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 21C(k), otherwise known as Proposition 2.5, the amounts required to pay the principal and interest on the bonds and notes authorized by this vote.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and we have a presentation.
A brief presentation. Michael Lee, Wildwood Drive, Regional School Committee, and I'm on the Capital Subcommittee. The Regional School Committee followed a similar process that Frank Hess just described, that Pine Hill did to evaluate our capital needs. We have a long-term plan. We actively work with the Capital Committee so they can understand what our needs are going out into the future. This year, we are requesting funds for 20 projects, a total of $315,000, of which slightly over $143,000 is allocated to Sherborn. It's a wide variety of projects, vehicles for the grounds crew. A couple of the items are intended to reduce our outsourced service costs for snow removal. We are replacing doors in this building, Lindquist Exterior Common. This was a building that did not get updated in 2003 for the exterior. If anyone has been to the bathrooms tonight down in the lower areas, I think you'll understand why we want to do updates there. And there'll be painting in a variety of places on the regional school campus, as well as replacing the various floors. And then work in the high school gym. And that was also a building not part of the 2003-2004 renovation.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? If not, this is a 2/3 vote. It's a borrowing. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Article 10, cemeteries.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Waldron.
I move that $20,000 be transferred from the Cemetery Enlargement Fund for the purposes stated in the article.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any debate? If not, this vote requires a majority. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Article 11.
Ms. Moderator,
Yes, Mr. Rudin.
I move that the town vote to amend Chapter 3 of its general laws by adding a new Section 13, allowing the Board of Selectmen to enter into personnel contracts on behalf of the town, as printed in the 2014 town meeting warrant, with the additional amendment that the word personnel be added to the first line of the amendment before the word contracts, so that the first line will read, Section 13, the Board of Selectmen is authorized to enter into personnel contracts on behalf of the town.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Yes, Mr. Durensis.
Is this on? Can you hear me? The next three articles are related articles. The Board of Selectmen has created the position of lieutenant in the police department, and we appointed an individual for almost 2 years ago. But in order to implement that, we need these articles to pass so that we can enter into an employment contract so that he can fulfill his duties. as lieutenant in the police department. Article 11 grants us authority to sign contracts for personnel matters. That's the contract in issue with the lieutenant's position. Article 12, a related article, allows us to get by a restriction in the bylaws that prevent such contracts, and Article 13 puts before you the actual employment agreement for your approval. We ask that you support Article 11, allow the police department to continue as presently organized. It's working well, and let's do justice by this individual now who's been doing the job without a contract for almost 2 years.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? If not, we'll proceed to the vote. This requires a majority for passage. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Article 12, Personnel Administration Plan.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Rubin.
I move that the town vote to amend Section 2, application of the town's Personnel Administration Plan as printed in the 2014 town meeting warrant.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Drensis has made comments on this article. Is there any other discussion? If not, this requires a majority vote for passage. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Article 13, Employment Agreement.
Madam Moderator,
Ms. Rellis.
I move that the town vote to approve an employment agreement between the town and David T. Bento to serve in the position of police lieutenant for the term of July 1, 2012 to June 30, 2016.
Second.
Excuse me, is that the correct date?
That's the right date.
Okay.
2016.
That's what she said,
Yeah, I said
16.
that.
2013.
I said
It's incorrect on the slide because it was...
Yes. Okay. No, okay. The slide then is incorrect. It's actually the 2013 through 2016. Does everybody understand that correction? And that is what was read in the motion. So it's been moved. Was it seconded?
Second, yes.
Yes. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, this requires a majority for passage. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Article 14, Speed Radar Message Board.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Pollack.
I move that the sum of $11,000 be transferred from free cash in the Treasury for the purchase of a speed alert radar message board for the police department.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, this requires a majority vote for passage. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. Let's do that one more time. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Nay. It passes. I understand it's that speed message board thing. Yes. Article 15, Town Administrator Job Description.
Madam Moderator,
Yes.
I move that the town vote to amend Chapter 3, Sections 6.1 and 6.2, and add Sections 6.3 and 6.4 to the general bylaws as printed in the 2014 town meeting warrant.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I understand there's a presentation?
Unfortunately. I want to apologize to the group this afternoon or tonight.
I'm a fill-in for the person who actually drafted this presentation, and he did a marvelous job at the advisory committee, but he's not available tonight. My name is George Shea, 19 Deerfield Road, Sherborn, Massachusetts, 1481, 1770 is the zip code. I am a member of the task force that was appointed by the town moderator last year as a result of a vote taken by this body. And we have made three recommendations relative to warrants that would be passed this evening, and this is the first. This particular article provides for an expansion and definition of the duties of the town administrator, and it's consistent with those recommendations that were made by the Department of Revenue in 2012 and the Collins Institute in 2011. And the best practices that were suggested as the strong TA, that's town administrator, who operates with the authority and brings greater efficiencies, we think. It also frees up the Board of Selectmen to minimize their involvement in the day-to-day operations of the town and to establish a strategy or vision for the town in the future, both of which were recommended by the DOR and the Collins Institute. The town administrator will become the chief administrative officer. He will be accountable for managing the town's businesses. You've already heard some of those items that he would be managing in previous discussions. Supervise and direct and be accountable for all areas of the employees that fall under the Board of Selectmen, but that would not include employees of elected officials, committees, or boards, and would not include the employees of the police and fire department, both of which are regulated by statute. For those departments where the TA is not accountable, he in this case, will establish effective working relationships among all the town departments, employees, committees, and commissions, and he will appoint and remove employees who fall under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen. This body has addressed the personnel bylaw on a number of occasions, and operationally, this bylaw has been subject to some inconsistencies. The recommendation being made by the task force would be that the town administrator act as the human resource director of all employees except school employees. They're regulated by statute, and the Board of Trustees, library trustees, which is established under the trustees' policies. Administer the personnel plan, collaborate with the personnel committee, very fine committee that I served on at one point. Ensures consistency in the management of the personnel system. That addresses some of the issues that I made reference to in a minute ago. Including the job descriptions, pay practices, and performance appraisals of all employees, whether they're the employees of the board, under the Board of Selectmen, or employees under the elected boards and officers. Manage investments and investigation of improper conduct. This was a contention several years ago as to who had the actual responsibility to engage in such investigations. We're recommending that the town administrator be the primary manager of such investigations. It doesn't mean that he will conduct those investigations, but he will manage and oversee them. And he will consult with town council where appropriate, and that would probably mean in any situation where a statute or either federal or state has been alleged to have been violated. He will be the chief procurement officer under the recommendation, under the article. He will purchase all equipment and supplies for the town. He will be responsible for bidding and reviewing and awarding all contracts, excluding the school contracts, which is governed by Chapter 30, Section 19. He will execute all contracts except those related to the schools, audits, and town council, which would be entered by the schools department and the Go back one. And the town council, and that would be the Board of Selectmen. He would purchase all equipment and supplies for the town, responsible for bidding and reviewing awards. You can go forward now. He would be the Board of Selectmen are able to. Aha. This is a new one for me. The Board of Selectmen would be able to focus on the creating of the vision of the town, facilitate a strategic plan, because they would be freed from the day-to-day operations of the town's activity. The CA. Chief what? Administrative officer. Thank you very much. The town administrator has the necessary autonomy and authority to execute the vision of the strategy of the Board of Selectmen. The town benefits from the name from a named HR director, who is accountable for the consistent administration of the employment regulations, and the efficiencies gained with the chief procurement officer responsible for ordering equipment and supplies and bidding, awarding, and executing most contracts. Am I up my 5 minutes? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions? If not, we'll proceed to the vote. This requires a majority for passage. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. Motion passes.
Madam Moderator.
Yes, this is Article 16, Warrant Signing Authority. Yes, Mr. Barsamian.
I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the General Court for a special act providing the legislation be adopted as printed in the 2014 town meeting warrant to allow the town administrator to sign warrants with the following correction, that sentence 2 of paragraph 2 be amended to read, may ask the chair of the Board of Selectmen to place the matter on the next Board of Selectmen agenda, provided that such meeting is held within 14 days after the warrant was issued.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. There's a presentation on this.
Rob Tierney, 31 Old Orchard Street, and a member of the Sherborn Governance Task Force. This one will be brief. I'm going to look here. Yeah? Okay. So the purpose of this article simply is to have the town administrator sign the warrants for town expenses going forward. The way it works currently, the Board of Selectmen review these warrants as they come up, requiring them to meet frequently. They review, sign them, and away it goes. The Board of Selectmen last year proposed having the town administrator get this responsibility. They're in favor of it. When we reviewed it with the task force, it makes very good sense for us, and it's will expedite the process. So the town administrator will review and sign the warrants with the exception of his own expenses. The Board of Selectmen maintain the right to review, put a hold on anything that they have questions on, and then can review that at their next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion or questions? If not, this motion requires a majority for passage. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. Motion passes. Article 17, to expand the size of the Board of Selectmen.
Madam Moderator.
Ms. Wolf.
I move that the town authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the General Court for a special act providing that legislation be adopted as printed in the 2014 town meeting warrant to increase membership on the Board of Selectmen from 3 to 5.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and I understand there's a presentation.
Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Chuck on 116 Maple Street. One of the things that the task force was looking at was a recommendation in the Collins Institute at UMass Boston that the town consider increasing the size of the Board of Selectmen from 3 to 5. There are a number of reasons in support of it. In our survey of other towns trying to identify best practices, we consistently heard support for this proposal. Having 5 members allows broader representation, more representation, people with different skill sets, different priorities to serve on the board. It also allows a sharing of the workload. The Board of Selectmen is one of the biggest time commitments for volunteers in the town. Having a 5-member board makes it easier to schedule meetings, to achieve a quorum, which can be a problem with a 3-member board. And an increasing number of towns in eastern Massachusetts in particular have moved from 3-member to 5-member boards, including Southborough, Harvard, Sudbury, and Newbury recently. Some of the concerns that we had, and we evaluated in the committee, was whether or not having a 5-member board would result in longer meetings, and whether or not we would be able to find candidates to run for the additional seats. Quick survey of the neighboring towns indicates that and about a 2.5 times as many of the towns have 5-member boards. They're listed here. There are also towns such as Dover that have 3-member boards. One of the questions, obviously, is the size of those towns. Sherborn, like Dover, is small. Boxborough, Carlisle, Chatham, Southborough is larger, but all of these towns have less than 10,000 residents. The town of Southborough recently made the decision to move to a 5-member board. This is the first year when they have 3 candidates, 3 open positions, and the town administrator and the boards in Southborough have been very enthusiastic. They were concerned about having enough candidates to run. So far this year they have had 8 candidates who are running for the three seats. Those of us that have served on a number of boards in town have served on boards that are larger than 3. This is just a listing of some of them. At the end of the day, the most important thing is we're talking about best practices and structure. The key thing is getting good candidates, getting people that are willing to volunteer and to serve. This was identified consistently as one of the best practices and one of the most important things the town can do to provide for continuity and to volunteer service is such a key part of the town's services. And the goal to having a 5-member board is to encourage more candidates to come forward and to volunteer their services.
Thank you. Betsy's walking toward the mic. Would you like to talk?
Betsy Johnson, 272 Western Avenue. As town historian, I was asked to give you a little background on this. Having a 5-member board is not new for Sherborn. The first selectmen were elected in 1678, and there were 5 of them. With the exception of 1776, they remained a 5-man board until 1840. That's 161 years. From 1840 to the present, we've had a 3-man board, which is only slightly more, 174 years. So, just for your interest.
Thank you, Betsy. There's a gentleman at the back mic.
Bob Delaney, 46 Pleasant Street, as well as a previous selectman for 2 terms some time ago. I am opposed to expanding the board. I think One of the criticisms that was made to the town in the two studies, DOR and Collins, criticized us for not having enough competitive elections. And I think it would be, at least it's a good possibility that we won't get enough candidates. And I would be concerned about that. And I think three, at least the present three, are fine. And, and couldn't say that always, but it's. I think three is good, and that's what I would suggest we favor.
Thank you. Yes, next to the rear.
Neil McPherson, Great Rock Road. So I want to thank the Governor's Task Force for all their work on this, and I think they're coming to us tonight with a way where we can improve the governance of this town. So I certainly am in favor of that based upon the work they have done and the challenge they had before, which was finding ways to improve the efficiency. I do want to talk about just the people volunteering coming forth, and I'll just talk from my own personal perspective. Over the years, I have thought about running for selectman, but because of the huge burden, because of only having 3 people, I've always said because of travel schedules and that burden, I'm not going to do it. And I've spoken to other people who were semi-interested in going ahead and running for the Board of Selectmen, and they've had similar feelings. So I do think if you spread out and had 5 members on the board, again, you would probably have less requirements on each of those individuals. You'd have greater diversity of thought, better representation of ideas, and probably solutions. So I do think that this is something that would be in the best interest of town, and certainly will vote in favor of it. Thank you.
Are the folks in the back waiting to speak? Yes, next.
Yes, Jack Knapp from 32 Meadowbrook Road. I'm against this because one of the reasons is I've never seen anything that the government's done better by being bigger. I've seen smaller government improve a lot, but not bigger government. With one exception, I take my hat off to Eisenhower for building the highways so that we can get across the country. With the exception of that, with the conflict that comes with more members, you have more delay, and delay is government. Thank you.
Yes, the next speaker.
Tom Ermston, 79 Hollis Street. I think this is a good idea. I have nothing against the 3 selectmen up there, but I think it's always, to me, been insane that 2 selectmen cannot talk to each other without violating the open meeting law. So I think a little bit more informal communication is probably a healthy thing, would help the business of the selectmen. I think if you opened it to 5 selectmen, I agree with the previous speakers, that you would get a surprising number of people looking to run. We might get more politics in town. I guess that's not always a good thing, but I think you'd get a number of people who would look at this as an attractive opportunity without the burden of being 1 and 3 selectmen, which is considerable, as the 3 up there could probably attest. So I think this is a great idea, and I would vote for it.
We'll come down to the front, Grace, and then we'll go to the back again.
Rockwood Street. I, too, have been a selectman here in town. One of the reasons I'm for 5 rather than 3 is because when you change 1 selectman out of a board of 3, and you can often find that you get 2 to 1 in one policy direction. The next year, there's another election, and you go 2 to 1 in another policy direction. And this has happened not that infrequently, that you have a rather schizophrenic kind of town government, leaning first one way and then the other, depending only upon a single elected person. There's much more consistency in running town government with a slightly larger group and a little bit less impact of each individual person's policy preferences. So I am for this motion, much as I sympathize with the fact that there are selectmen who serve now who feel that they're being demoted if we pass this. They're great guys. We're not demoting them. We're just adding more great people.
Thank you. In the rear?
Jim Murphy, 44 Bear Hill Road. I was formerly a selectman, and I am now a member of the Library Trustees. when I was on the selectmen, I felt really restrained by the fact that here I was trying to be responsible for a $20 or $25 million budget, and yet I could not talk outside of open meeting to one of the other selectmen to see whether or not we could come up with new ideas except at an open meeting. And that just seemed to me to be counterproductive and counterintuitive to any other business that you would try to run. With the 9-member board of the trustees, we have the ability to have a lot of people doing a lot of work and breaking it into pieces, and it's been really fantastic. And so I really would urge people to support this. I think it's just going to help with collegiality. Can you imagine that you can't even go out to dinner with your fellow selectmen when you're on the selectmen? It just seems ridiculous. So I think this really would be a good thing if we could add some more to the selectmen. I think we have a lot of good people there and a lot of people, good people who want to serve, and I think it would be a positive. Thank you.
Okay. In the front, Nancy, did you want to talk?
Nancy Hess, 64 South Main Street. The strongest recommendation that came from both the Department of Revenue study and the Collins report was to fix the operation of the Board of Selectmen first and to strengthen the position of the town administrator. I believe that one of the healthiest suggestions that has come from this new government study committee has been to expand the membership of the Board of Selectmen from 3 to 5 for all of the reasons that you've already heard. Excuse me. I've shared the roof over Town Hall in various capacities with a variety of boards of selectmen through the years for over 25 years now. Some of those years were better than others. Some could be described as disastrous. Having suffered motion sickness for most of my life, I learned, and painfully so sometimes, that the person with the honor of driving often is unaware of how ill you're making the passengers. It is my hope that a greater number of selectmen will mean greater participation and greater input into the decisions that are made that affect the town, and will force the board to work as a board rather than as individuals, and work through the town administrator for operational issues, as was recommended by both studies. Let's not wait for the ride to break down again. Let's see if we can make it better now. Please give the 5-man board a chance to work by supporting this article. Thank you.
In the rear.
Hi, Stacy Brandon, 16 Deerfield Road. Just want to support this as well, to go to 5 members. All of the things I was going to talk about have been brought up already, but as chair of the library trustees, I will say that with our 9-member board, I can't imagine what it must be like to do what the selectmen have to do with only 3 members, and they've done a great job. So I think 5 members will make life easier for everyone. So vote yes on this.
Yes. Did you want to speak, John? Okay, we'll come down here, and then we'll go to the back again. Okay.
John Higley, 14 Saddlebrook Road. I'm on the planning board, and it's a 5-member board. I'm always impressed with our selectmen. I've always been impressed with our selectmen. I think it takes a heroic amount of work, I really take advantage of the 5-member board, getting our members to other boards and committees, including the selectmen's meetings. I really appreciate it when the selectmen somehow find time to get to our meetings. So I support this. I think spreading out the workload has got to make it easier for the really tremendous effort our selectmen put forth, and I think it will also encourage other people who maybe not be able to meet that kind of time commitment. So I support this.
In the rear.
Peter Lifferton, Doppingbrook Road, also chairman of the Board of Health. I serve on a 3-person committee, and it's not easy. One of my committee members is sitting right here, and I can't talk to her because we haven't posted a meeting here. If you want to increase the Board of Health to 5 members, I think that would be outstanding. I certainly support expanding the selectmen to 5 members, and for all the reasons that have already been stated. Thank you.
Yes, in the rear.
Margot Pawicki, 3 Village Way.
Margot, could you speak up a little bit?
Margot Pawicki, 3 Village Way.
Thank you.
Having served on the 1985-1986 12-member Town Government Structure Committee, I have followed the Town Governance Task Force with great interest. Please support this article with your affirmative vote. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Crusoe.
If anybody was wondering, my mic's on.
It's not.
If we had a 5-member board, your mic would be on too. Yeah, if we had a 5-member board, the mic would be on. So. Well, the Board of Selectmen didn't vote on this, and it was 2 against and 1 abstention. And just if anybody was wondering. For the way I see it, some of the reasons, I think you get no offense taken any of these comments. Many of these comments are good comments. There you go. All right. Sorry, Paul did it because he had it last. So anyway, we voted 2 against it, 1 abstention. The reasons I voted against it was I thought that you will get the opportunity for less transparent government will occur with 5 members. I think that certainly the meetings have a great possibility of being much more inefficient. We fight over the mic time as it is with just 3 of us. You will certainly get one of the highest ratios of selectmen to resident of all the communities in Massachusetts, which you may want. Sounds like many of you do. We just think it will be inefficient. The workload, you still have to do the workload. Yeah, I appreciate, yes, it would be great to be able to talk to each of these guys or gals to the extent there are gals on this board, but it would be great to talk to those folks offline. But nonetheless, we do believe in being as transparent as possible, so we have our discussions in open meetings on camera so everybody knows what we're thinking and talking about. But it's your government. You get to vote how you want to see it. And those are my thoughts. I don't know if my fellow guys have anything to say up here.
Since you asked, Peter, my thoughts, as we discussed at the meeting when we discussed this, are fairly similar.
Excuse me, I don't mean to be pesky. But would you like to ask
yes,
to be recognized?
Madam Moderator, may I?
Thank you. Yes.
They're similar, and I was concerned about the prospect of very long meeting and a lot of political effort that's not productive for the town when you get to a larger number of members. I was also a little concerned about the willingness of people to run for the seat. I know there's been a dispute today in the comments about that. I think a lot of the points were very valid. I'm not sure the swing vote point is particularly relevant because I think you can get a swing either way no matter how many board members you have, but it's certainly a very plausible proposal. Either way, the Board of Selectmen will continue and do its work for the town.
Are there oh, yes.
Madam Moderator,
yes.
One thing I'd like to add in terms of I've had 4 different people who've been aware of what the Governance Task Force Committee has been doing come to me who have expressed their support for it and have indicated that they would likely run or would definitely run for a larger board. And there obviously will be 3 elected in the first tranche, in the first election year, but I've already had 4 different folks come and tell me if they're interested in running.
Thank you. Yes, there's someone in the rear. Yes.
Sarah Raggi, 46 4th Street. I'd just like to ask if we could move the question.
Okay, moving the question. Moving the question would end debate, and we would go immediately to the vote. It requires the 2/3. All those in favor of moving the question, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. I believe the question is moved. We'll go directly to the vote. Expanding, the motion is to expand the Board of Selectmen from 3 to 5. This requires a simple majority for passage. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Nay. I kind of think the ayes had it. Is anyone distressed by that and wants a card count? Okay, the ayes have it. It passes. Article 18, the Veterans Program.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Williams.
I move that no action be taken.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that no action be taken.
Madam Moderator,
Yes, Mr. Durensis.
we are going to ask the voters to vote no on the no action so that action can be taken. We have a presentation that we're putting together here. There is a state program that provides benefits to veterans. We want to explain to you what that program is, why it would benefit Sherborn and veterans in Sherborn. If you vote no on the no action, you would allow us to present a positive motion. If you don't like what we have to say, you can vote against the positive motion. If you like what we have to say, you have then the opportunity to adopt a positive motion and a positive program that we think is in the best interest of the town. So with that, can I make a presentation?
Yes.
Okay, let's do. Go ahead. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts has passed a law. It's what's called the Local Acceptance Law. The language of that law is on the slide. This town can accept this section of law, which takes a majority vote at town meeting. If we accept this law, it authorizes the town to establish a program to allow veterans to volunteer to provide services to the town of Sherborn. In exchange for such volunteer services, the town shall reduce the real property tax obligations of that veteran on the veteran's tax bills. In other words, a veteran who puts in time as a volunteer for the town can get up to $1,000 reduction on real estate taxes. The law goes on to say that we have the power to adopt local rules and regulations. Nothing in this section shall be construed to permit the reduction of workforce or otherwise replace existing staff. So this isn't about affecting our employees. This is about obtaining volunteers to do things that would allow these veterans to reduce their tax bills. The statute, these three slides are telling you what the statute is that we're going to ask you to accept. There are two features of the statute that we are also going to ask you to adopt in the proposed motion. One of those features is that if the veteran is physically unable to provide the service, that he or she can designate an approved representative to do that volunteer work on his behalf. And the second is that the limitation could be $1,000 or 125 hours of voluntary service in any given tax year. Why is the state presenting a program for veterans? 29% of veterans returning home from service have physical disabilities. Some of those disabilities are horrific. No arms, no legs. Some of the disabilities you can't see. They're pieces of metal embedded in bodies. There's higher unemployment faced by veterans than non-veterans. In the stress of service, we are losing 22 veterans a day, more than we lose in enemy combat operations. Both the President of the United States, congressional leaders, and the leaders of our state government are telling us veterans need more help. There is a whole There's a whole series of programs that have been put together for veterans, but the state has put together this program and is asking the 351 cities and towns to adopt this. Next slide. This program is not looking for money. It's funded by abatements, a $1,000 abatement off the tax bill. It comes out of the overlay surplus. The maximum exposure to the town cannot exceed $5,000, and I'll explain why that's the case in a minute. Let's go to the next slide. If this statute is accepted, if you adopt a positive vote tonight, it authorizes the Board of Selectmen to establish the parameters of a program. We task the town administrator to do the homework and to present a program to the Board of Selectmen. He did that on April 17, 2014, and we did adopt a program to be implemented if you vote yes. Next slide. Here is the proposal that the Board of Selectmen have adopted if this program is adopted by the voters. And one more.
Paul, you've hit your 5-minute mark. Perhaps you can...
I'm wrapping it up.
Okay.
That's the proposed motion that we're going to make. If you vote no on the advisory committee's motion to take no action, and the last slide. When you consider this article, please remember what veterans have done for us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Moderator?
Yes, Mr. Caruso.
Well, yes, this definitely came to us late in the game, came to advisory late in the game, but when I learned about this, thanks to Paul, it seemed like a great idea. In fact, it seems like a no-brainer to me. We're limiting the thing to $5,000 of taxes that we don't collect, which is funded through these abatements, as Paul said. We're providing this benefit to folks who have served us, and many have served us exceedingly well. We are adopting a program. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're adopting a program at the state from the state. And when you think about it, we're likely to have anyone who takes advantage of this is going to be providing us services at the minimum wage with no benefits. And our experience with folks who do this through the senior tax credit program, we get some great help around the town hall from folks who are using that program. So I'm very much in favor of it. We voted unanimously on this program that Paul described. And so we ask that you help defeat this no action motion so we can bring forth the motion Paul showed you.
Yes, in the rear.
Doug Brody, 7 Curve Street. I'm the Sherborn Veteran Services Officer charged with aiding and advising our veterans and their spouses on all laws and regulations that are relevant to their status as fellow residents who have honorably served their country. As such, I act as liaison between the state and federal government agencies and those veterans who qualify for specific benefits that have been enacted into law. I also oversee relevant programs and activities that are directed toward our veterans. As such, the article tonight that would establish a tax abatement program for veterans is very much in concert with our recognition of and appreciation for what our veterans have sacrificed for our country. It will provide an opportunity for those who qualify to be of service to our town government and to be remunerated for that service in the form of a tax abatement. There are currently 173 veterans in Sherborn, having served from World War II forward, among them certainly being some who could benefit from this program. The town as well can benefit from the work the qualified veterans can perform, so this is a win-win situation, and I urge your vote to approve this article by voting against the advisory commissions. Thank you.
Yes, there's someone else in the rear.
I'm Carol Mitchell, 121 Coolidge Street. I think this is basically a very sound plan, and I support veterans. My question is, if we look at all the volunteers who've spoken here, I bet there are a lot of veterans who are already volunteering for the town. Where is the line? Is this going to be new veterans volunteering, or are people who are currently volunteering eligible to apply?
Thank you. Yes, David, Town Administrator, would you like to answer the question? David Williams.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just wanted to point out the exposure of $5,000 means that it's limited to 5 people. So that's 5 households that it would be going to. So if somebody was already participating in the senior tax program, they would not be allowed to participate in this program. However, they might have a spouse who is a veteran. So there could be 2 people in the household. One is a senior tax person, one is the veteran program. So the maximum benefit any single household would receive is $2,000.
Could you hear that answer, Carol?
I don't think it answers my question. My question was, some of the veterans sitting up here volunteering all these hours, are they eligible?
If somebody can't receive, the same person can't receive $1,000. The same person can't receive $1,000 in the senior program and $1,000 in the veteran program.
I think the question is, for instance, if there are veterans sitting on the stage who are volunteering, would they qualify for this program?
If they're veterans.
Oh, is that the question? Is the question that does your service as a volunteer committee person qualify as service under this program?
Yes.
Okay, that's the question.
Okay. No, it's separate. I mean, you're volunteering for a committee. This is working through the veterans agent to be assigned to a department to do something in that department, and but it's working in a department, not on a committee.
Okay. You got that. Okay. Thank you. Was there another comment in the rear?
Peter Lifford and Doppingbrook Road. This is like motherhood and apple pie. How do you vote against motherhood and apple pie? But what I saw on the screen was that there are parameters that will be established, and the particulars of this really weren't all presented. But most importantly, I wonder why advisory has recommended no action if it's such an admirable program. And if advisory could respond, please.
Can you answer from there?
Yes. Sorry. Yes. Mary Wolf, Chair of Advisory. Advisory voted no action on this warrant article because we received the information on it the night before our public hearing in March, and the information that we received was inadequate at that time. Since that time, we have received other information from the Board of Selectmen, and I've actually spoken to Doug Brody about this. We did think about reconsidering our vote, but our feeling was that although we had heard significant information from people who were proponents of the article, we had not had any further opportunity to hear information from people who would be opposed to the article. And for that reason, we chose not to revote this ourselves this evening. So we will vote as individuals, as each of you will.
Yes, in the rear.
George Shea, 19 Deerfield Road, Sherborn, Massachusetts. I'm reading a sentence from the statute that this motion has a positive vote on. The next motion that the selectmen suggested would pass and accept the statute. It reads, when providing such voluntary services, that person shall be considered a public employee for the purposes of Chapter 258, and those services shall be deemed employment for purposes of unemployment insurance as provided in Chapter 151A. I'm asking the question as to what is the meaning of for shall be deemed employment for purposes of unemployment insurance as provided by 151A. Does that mean that the person who ceases to engage in this voluntary activity ceases to be an employee and then is eligible for unemployment insurance, which would be paid for by the town?
David Williams, Town Administrator.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Volunteers are considered public employees, so there is an exposure of unemployment, but the claim would be up to $1,000 if somebody had claimed that. And then you would be subject to, the town would be subject to a portion of whatever their whole unemployment claim is. So the exposure is not that great. It's not going to impact our unemployment insurance costs. If a claim was to come in, usually we contest every claim that comes through for unemployment, and then we go through a process, and if we end up paying something, the exposure here is very tiny, but there is some exposure.
Madam Moderator, I have another question.
Yes, Mr. Shea.
The proposal that we adopt a statute, accept a statute from the legislature. A similar statute was provided for elder volunteers, except this town rejected that acceptance and decided to have its own plan. Is that a possibility under this statute?
I'll direct the question to Dave Williams.
This would be adopting the statute. That's what's being recommended by the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen considered expansion of the current senior tax program and just changing the criteria to allow veterans. But the decision was made to go with this CAN state program that was recommended by the state. It's consistent among a number of communities, so it's tried and tested, so that it was chose to go with this rather than expand the existing program.
And then I have one last question.
Yes.
With the selectmen have indicated that they have voted a program, and they outlined that program a couple of minutes ago. That program is not frozen as it stands, as I understand it, by the vote to accept this statute. So subsequent to the exception of this statute, could the Board of Selectmen expand the program?
Can I send that question to David Williams?
I think I'm looking at Town Council and she's staring back at me.
Yes. Barbara San Andre, Town Council.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Barbara St. Andre, I'm with Petrini and Associates, Town Council. Well, there are a couple of things to keep in mind here. First of all, there are some built-in provisions in the statute that provide limitations, which have already been talked about. For example, the maximum reduction for any individual is $1,000 or 125 volunteer service hours. That's one statutory provision. In addition to that, unless you have funds available, as you do this year, under the abatement overlay surplus account, funds would have to be appropriated by town meeting, so that would be another check on it. So the Board of Selectmen, as I understand it, I don't want to speak for them, have voted a certain program right now, which would be up to 5 people. And can that be changed at some time in the future? Yes. I mean, for example, if you have 5 members of the Board of Selectmen, in a few years, they might decide that they want to do something different. But ultimately, it's subject to appropriation by this town meeting, and it's also subject to the provisions of the statute, which do put limits on how much you can spend.
Is it my understanding
Excuse
that
me, Mr. Shea, did you have another question?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Is it my understanding that this program would be funded out of the same funds that were used to fund one of the capital budget items tonight? That was the money that was put away for over assessments. I forgot what the terminology.
The overlay?
The override.
The overlay is a
Overrun.
line item. I'm sorry, Madam Moderator.
Okay, yes. David, if you want to answer, can you answer the question?
The overlay is a line item in the budget, and it's brought forward each year, and that's what it's funded out of, but nothing to do with capital items.
Okay. Is your question, how would this be funded?
No, my question is, didn't we use that fund that is being proposed to be used for the veterans already?
Aha. I guess the question is there additional money in the overlay reserve fund that is available for this purpose?
Yes.
Can someone here answer that question?
So it would seem to me it would take an appropriation to do this.
Well, here we have Paul Durensis.
No, each year the town votes on overlay surplus to deal with abatements. So if someone files for an abatement on their taxes, there's a process by which it goes through, and if they are successful in getting an abatement, there is a fund that the town puts aside. Each year, there is, for each year, a sum of money. If this program is adopted, the way it works by statute is that the veteran can get $1,000 out of the fund that we put aside each year to cover for abatements. The statute defines it as an abatement program. Some of the abatements that we give for people who contest the value of the assessments on their property can be very substantial dollars. That's not the case here. It's limited to $1,000. There is enough money in the amount that we set aside each year for dealing with abatement applications to cover this small amount.
Thank you. Yes, Grace, did you want to speak? Did you want to speak?
Oh, I thought you were going to recognize someone other than me because I had spoken
Yes, I
so
did.
often.
I was asking Grace if she would like to speak.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were addressing me. I am not opposed to the idea of our doing this ultimately in this town, but I think the conversation we're hearing is exactly why we expect facts, plans, and details to go to advisory in sufficient time for them to explore, debate, and understand. This is not ready. This is not the kind of conversation you have on town meeting floor about the intricacies of a law. That should have been discussed far, far earlier. So I suggest we don't reject advisory's motion, and we encourage the selectmen to come back next year.
Yes, I'll come back to you, Paul, but
I would just repeat the comments by Grace Shepherd.
Okay.
It's not ready to be voted. I'm not against the proposal. It's just not ready. There are too many open questions, open-ended questions that should have been addressed prior to this meeting and by the appropriate processes
okay.
by the advisory committee.
You've strung out your 2 minutes. Thank you. Paul will briefly, and then I'm going to go to comments in the rear.
I just want to answer the Gray Shepherd comment. Putting it off for a year puts the burden on the vets who could benefit from this program. If there are people who have questions, that's legitimate. We think we have answers for them all. But don't have the vets pay for this. Let them have the benefit of this program. This is a state program. It's one that is comfortably used in other communities. We don't have to invent the wheel here.
In the rear.
Deirdre Murphy, 58 Ivy Lane, Madam Moderator.
Yes.
I would like to applaud the comments of Grace. I agree that this is not the place to debate the merits of this motion. I fully support our country's veterans and the brave work that they've done to defend our country. However, as a point of process, this is not the place to debate the intricacies of this law and its application and the impact on this town. Questions like means test, who's going to pay to administer this program, what are the intricacies of administration, are things that should have been addressed before town meeting, and it's irresponsible for it not to have been debated and fully vetted before coming to the floor of the town meeting. Thank you.
If there are... Yes, Mr. Caruso.
I don't know if I'm on. I think I'm off again. I don't know why. Just with Paul, you know, we can wait another year, I guess, but why, the motion is very specific about the details of this program. How you fund it's pretty specific. It's a state program. Waiting another year serves no one well. I appreciate the process, but again, because it seemed like a great idea, Paul brought it forward. I learned about it the first time. I still strongly support doing this and not waiting another year. Delay doesn't help the veterans, doesn't help anybody, but I appreciate the comments that others have made.
In the rear. In the rear.
Yeah, hi.
Yes.
You can hear me. Susan Tyler, Western Avenue. This was passed by the state well over a year ago. This came up at a selectmen's meeting the Thursday before the Saturday advisory hearings for the first time. This was not discussed, was not vetted. As we've heard tonight, there's far too many questions as to how this is going to be handled. I keep hearing that, well, it's for 5 people at this point. Five veterans will get it. I haven't heard, how are you going to pick the 5? That hasn't been discussed, and I think we need to, first off, thank all of the veterans right now for their services and sacrifices, and because of their services and sacrifices, we need to be sure that this program is going to work right and work right from day one, and we haven't got the answers for it tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, there's someone else stepping to the mic.
Peter Lifford on Doppingbrook Road. I just come to the fact that I believe I heard the presenter say that it's going to be paid out of the overlay so it doesn't cost the taxpayers anything. Well, the money in the overlay came from the taxpayers. That's all.
If there are no more comments to be made, we'll return to the main motion, which is a negative motion. It is a motion to take no action. Everybody understands that if you are in favor of adopting this particular statute, you will vote no on this main motion. And if you do not want to adopt the state statute, you will vote yes on the motion to take no action. Everybody understand that? Okay. The motion is to take no action. This is a simple majority to prevail. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. I think we're going to have yellow card time. Will the people who are voting aye please raise your yellow cards? Are we good to go for the nays? Okay, we're still voting on the negative motion. Those opposed to the negative motion, please raise your yellow cards. No, wait a minute. Could everyone please take your seats? The votes on the negative motion, the motion to take no action, were 174 yes, 158 no. The motion passes. The next article is Article 19, Tax Collector.
Madam Chairwoman.
Mr. Waldron, I think your mic needs to get turned on.
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes.
I move that no action be taken.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that no action be taken. Is there going to be a presentation?
Just a short update. For those of you who haven't been glued to your TV over the last year to see what's been going on with this, when this was first introduced, as tax collector, I am only allowed to take money that's related to taxes. There is a statute that helps provide so that you can take other funds, and I have been asked to do that. But I can't do that without adopting the statute, and last year at the hearing, people were uncomfortable with the language that said, shall collect all funds. So as a remedy to that, I've been trying to change the law. And I've been working with Representative Linsky, with the Mass Collectors Treasurers Association and their lobbyist, and Senator Ross. It went through the House, changing the words from shall collect to shall be authorized to collect, and any funds rather than all funds, which will give us as a town some flexibility as to what goes through the tax collector office. It went through the House last week. I went in and testified before the Joint Committee on Revenue. It was filed in two ways. It was filed as an amendment to the budget, and it was filed as a separate bill. Unfortunately, it hasn't come before the Senate. I talked to Senator Ross today. He's very supportive. He's going to try to usher it through there, but not in time for tonight. So I support the advisory's motion to take no action because we can't adopt a statute that isn't in place yet.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, we can take a vote. This is a simple majority to approve the motion to take no action. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Article 20, Town Office Saturday Closure.
Madam Moderator,
Mr. Rudin.
I move that the town vote to close public town offices on Saturdays in accordance with the provisions of Section 110A of Chapter 41 of the General Laws.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Are the folks in the... Oh, they're walking by. Okay. Any discussion or questions? If not, we'll go to the vote. This is a majority to prevail. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Article 21, Unlicensed Dog Penalty.
Madam Moderator.
Yes, Mr. Rubin.
I move that the town vote to amend its general bylaws, Chapter 16, Section 2, Paragraph 3, as described in the 2014 town meeting warrant.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or question? If not, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Madam Moderator?
Yes, we're moving on to, I think what I'd like to do, actually, if I could interrupt you for just a moment, is around this time, usually we sort of assess where we stand on how late we're going to operate tonight. One of the concerns I have is that Article 32, which is a citizen's petition and appears at the end of our warrant, I think is probably going to have a great deal of discussion surrounding it, and I think worst possible experience for us would be to begin it tonight and to end it next Thursday. So I think at probably around 10:30, I would be very happy to have someone move to adjourn to Thursday night, and we'll get as far as we get, but then we will take the end of our warrant, including Article 32, on Thursday night, if that's agreeable with everyone. So I think we will now move on. I just wanted to let you know we will move on to Article 22, the Agricultural Advisory Committee.
Madam Moderator?
Yes, Ms. Rellis.
I move that the town vote to amend the charge of the Agricultural Advisory Committee as printed in the 2014 town meeting warrant.
Yes. Yes, excuse me. Yes, I hear you. Those of you who are leaving, could you do so quietly? And we're in the middle of a motion. What did you want to say?
Nobody can hear.
I'm sorry, we're in the middle of a motion. There can't be a main motion on the floor.
Well, could we just, before everyone leaves, could you make it clear that after this motion is over, that if 50 people vote to advance the article, that it will be advanced? At what point is that in order?
It's in order anytime there's not a main motion on the floor.
All right, so as soon as this main motion is over, it would be in order. Thank you.
I second them.
Okay. Excuse me just a moment. Okay. We're in the middle of Article 22. We have a motion that's been made. We have not. Have you made the motion? Has it been seconded?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, this is a simple majority for passage. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion passes. Now, the person who spoke up before, do you want to make your motion?
Madam Moderator, Christine Cooney, 55 Maple Street.
Could you talk directly into the mic, please?
Christine Cooney, 55 Maple Street. I move to advance Article 32 for action at this time.
Okay, is there a second? Okay. Actually, by the town bylaw of Sherborn, it requires a 2/3 vote to take out of order, so that we will have to do a 2/3 vote. We'll do a counted card vote. Yes. If I could say that give a little historical perspective about our town bylaw about voting to take articles out of order. Historically, we've done this because there are articles on the warrant that attack or are around the same topic. And so we group them together and take them out of order so that we have one debate. The second reason we've done this is because if A, then B, that we can't really address Article B until we have addressed Article A. This is a request which I think might fall under the category of strategic, and I think that think very carefully about taking an article out of order for these reasons. It is part of our bylaw. We will have the vote, but I unfortunately just announced that we were going to address Article 32 Thursday night, and this came on the heels of that. So I would ask you to think about that when you are voting. So we have the motion to take out of order. It requires 2/3. All those...
Is that motion discussable?
Yes.
Richard Novak, 36 Nason Hill Road. Madam Moderator, if I can say a little more strongly than you did, to induce a large group of voters to leave and then immediately try to move the article, whether you're for it or against it, is just patently unfair. We should vote this down.
Yes, does someone else want to speak?
Paul Leach, 32 Peckham Hill Road. I think this is such a strategic and important issue, and we don't have time, and it'll take an hour or more, so let's postpone it.
Bob Delaney on Pleasant Street.
Mr. Delaney, would you like to talk?
I would, please.
Thank you.
A lot of people have gone home assuming that this was not going to be discussed, and I agree with Rick Novak that it is patently unfair.
There's one more comment.
Sybil Kaplan, 68 Maple Street. If we keep talking for 15 minutes and take us to 10:30, are we there? Because that really was a very slimy move, and I'm just...
I'm not sure that is really an out-of-order comment. Are there any
I
other
didn't mean
comments?
to be rude, but I'm just...
Excuse me, that was an out-of-order comment. Are there any other comments? We'll move to the vote. Yes, is there another gentleman standing there? Yes.
Yes, Doug Kingsley, 138 Farm Road. I agree with the previous comments that I think you inadvertently induced a lot of people to leave. And I think half the people are here tonight for this issue. I think it's probably going to take at least an hour to debate. And I think it's just unfair that we're going to even consider a parliamentary procedure to advance this thing after a lot of people left. I ask if you, as the moderator, don't have the discretion to basically disallow that usage of that rule.
Well, it's specifically in our town bylaw, and I usually feel that the ability to call the question and take the vote, so I feel bound to accept it.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Certainly.
I took about 60 seconds to ask that question. Could I get 12 more people up here to take 60 seconds to ask a question? Then we'll be at 10:30. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Shea, did you want to speak?
George Shea.
Could you talk into the mic?
George Shea, 19 Deerfield Road. I moved a question.
The question is moved. To move the question requires the two-thirds vote in and of itself. All those, and it's not debatable. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? We're voting on moving the question, and the question is there has been a motion to take Article 32 out of order. And we have discussion on it until we reach the... If someone moves the question, we can, if it is approved by two-thirds, it means we'll proceed immediately to the vote on the take out of order. If the move the question is defeated, it means that we will continue to debate the take out of order.
If it would make everyone feel better, I'll withdraw the motion. I didn't think it was a slimy or a dishonest move, but I thought that the way that the moderator said, this is how it's going to go, that maybe there should have been an opportunity for people, since this is probably the most contentious article, that I thought when you...
Excuse me, I haven't recognized you to speak yet. Would you like to speak, and would you like to make it short? And could you please identify yourself again?
Christine Cooney, 55 Maple Street. I didn't mean to cut off anyone's rights. Of course, if everyone's so opposed, then if we do take a vote, then I suppose that hardly anybody would vote to advance it. But seeing the comments, I mean, I just felt that that's why I ran up to the mic, because since you announced, I was trying to get to it before everyone left, because I thought that there should be some time where that type of motion can be made. Basically, it never can be made, because if you're moving from one article to another and you're announcing that this is the way that it's going to proceed, you're basically telling people that there's not going to be a motion to advance it. So it is getting late, so I withdraw my motion.
Yes.
I withdraw it.
Thank you for withdrawing the motion. I think that will solve the problem. Incidentally, for future reference, at any point when there is not a main motion on the floor, one may stand up and make a motion to either call to advance an article. So there was ample opportunity, I think, throughout the evening. Okay, we have voted on Article
Mrs. Moderator, may I
22.
speak?
Yes,
I'm Harley Kaplan, 68 Maple Street.
yes.
I am completely confused on what is going on right now.
Okay.
Many of the people who I was in the lobby were under the impression that you've given them that we're not going to have the vote on this, and they left. So are you now, after many of them have left, now you want to confuse the object again, the discussion again, and bring it up for motion? Is that my understanding?
No.
I'm glad everybody else says I don't. So, as I said before, many people have already left. Okay, so we need to address and make sure that that's understood.
Okay, we're going to, for those of you who may be new to our annual town meeting, it is our usual custom around this time of the evening is to assess how much we are going to accomplish during the evening before we decide where we're going to adjourn to go to the following night. This is not an unusual procedure. There's been a great deal of misunderstanding about our usual procedures from people who I suspect are not frequently here. We have approved Article 20. We have approved the motion on Article 22. We will go to Article 23, and when we get to 10:30, I would be happy if someone would like to make a motion to adjourn. Article 23, Right to Farm Bylaw.
Madam Moderator,
Yes.
I move that no action be taken on this article.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that no action be taken on this article. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Oh, I am sorry. You are correct. I'm a little kerfuffled. Is there any comment or debate on this article? Once again, this is a negative article. This is a negative motion, so that if... Was your question about the article or about the motion? Yes.
Is this on? Okay. I rose to the...
Your name,
Steve
sir?
Morse, 35 Nation Hill Road, Sherborn. I rose to ask that we have a discussion about this before the vote, and that I just make a comment about the article.
Yes.
Okay. My comment is that while current law by the state makes, according to the advisory committee, if I understood comments, makes this unnecessary, I feel that there's several years of history in Sherborn and debate about use of land for farming and the abutters' concerns. And I find it perplexing that no one is here to discuss this as a presentation, or at least address it since it's finally on the warrant. And I also believe that state law can be changed under future administrations, and that Sherborn's commitment to its farmland deserves at least some explanation of why the advisory committee feels this is no action if state law was to change in the future.
Thank you. Another comment in the rear.
Yes, Jack Knapp from Meadowbrook Road. I don't know how many of you were here 3 years ago when we originally passed the Agricultural Committee to be formed, but at that time, I believe the advisory committee voted against it. Was that correct? Can I ask a question?
Oh, sure, you can ask the question, but is there anyone here who can answer it?
Well, I'm just wondering.
Yes, evidently one of the selectmen can't answer it. Yes.
Okay.
I believe his answer was yes.
Okay. Do you know that you cost the town over $250,000 on that decision with the lawsuits that were involved in that piece of property because we did not have a strong agricultural committee, because it was able to be manipulated by the people, certain people on certain boards, so that it came to a lawsuit?
Excuse me, sir, I think you're just straying out of order.
Pardon?
On making personal comments.
I'm asking a question.
Be
if they
careful.
knew when they took the vote. Did they come out and talk to Sweet Meadow Farm or any farmer about this issue? Is that wrong to ask that question?
I'm sorry, who are you asking the question of?
Anybody that was willing to answer it, I guess.
Okay, who is they?
The advisory committee?
If it was 3 years ago, I don't think anyone currently on advisory may have even been on that committee
Okay.
at that time.
Okay.
So, I suspect that none of us could actually answer that question.
Okay. The reason for the importance of this is twofold, I think. Number one, I think if most of you remember, probably 3 reasons why you came to Sherborn. One of them had to be schools. Second one was probably because of the farms and the farm friendly, which is in our masthead, I believe, isn't it? I'll ask that of the legal department. That we're farm friendly? Yes or no?
If you have a comment, sir, would you like to keep going?
Well, I'm trying to set a little bit of history here so that the people know what they're going to vote on. Because just asking them for a yes or no vote, it gets taken down by the same way that the selectmen, after we approved the negative vote last time, 3 years ago, they switched the words around and made the Agricultural Commission or Advisory Commission with no power at all.
Excuse me, Mr. Knapp, you've hit the end of your 2 minutes.
Pardon?
You've hit the end of your 2 minutes.
I can't hear you.
You've hit the end of your 2 minutes. Time's up. Is there another speaker on this issue? Yes. If you could talk directly into the mic.
I'm Michael Goldstein from Whitney Street.
Yes.
And if I understand correctly, the motion is whether or not to move forward with the no action motion.
Correct.
And although I'm sure it was well explained, if perhaps advisory wants to explain to us why they want to have no action, that would be informative.
Advisory voted no action on this article because the right to farm bylaw, as suggested by the proponents, simply reiterated the provisions of the state law, and we felt that there was no reason to have a local law when we have a state law that says the same thing, and that if there were in fact changes made to the state law in the future, then we would be out of sync with that, and we would have to relook at our law to either bring it into conformance again or not to bring it into conformance again. And in general, advisory, it's not a policy, but I think that we in general feel when a state law covers exactly what a local law is proposed to cover, that we stick with the state law. That's why we made the recommendation that we did.
Is the Agricultural Committee given any power by this?
Excuse me, I don't know who's talking. If there's someone talking, is it the gentleman at the rear mic?
She can't see
you. Would the gentleman at the rear mic like to speak?
Yes, I would.
Could you tell me your name and address, please?
I'm the same speaker that was here, Jack Knapp from Meadowbrook Road.
Okay.
We own Sweet Meadow Farm.
Before we go to having you make an additional remark, is there anyone else who would like to speak first? If not, go ahead, Mr. Knapp.
Thank you. Where I'm confused is that there is no power to the advisory committee. Okay? The advisory committee cannot mandate anything to any of the other committees here. We're under the control of the Health Department, the Environmental Department, the Planning Department.
Excuse me, Mr. Knapp. One of our guidelines is to speak to the motion and the article within the 4 corners of the article, and I'm confused as to why this is applicable to the agricultural article.
Well, I thought that I was speaking to it because I want to defeat the motion.
Okay, would you like to speak to the merits of the agricultural article?
That's what I was trying to talk about.
Okay, please do.
What
Go
don't
ahead.
you understand that I just said?
Go ahead and speak about the merits of the agricultural article.
The merits of the agricultural article are that it spells out very strongly what the rights of the farmer are. Okay? And I think that it's very important for this town to define that, because if you want to avoid another lawsuit like we had with the town over the farm, then that would be a very good way of doing it, by adopting the language and by changing it if the state changes. That's, I think, what most of the other boards do also. They change when the state changes. I don't know why the farm community is being segregated separately and punished. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Grace.
Grace Shepherd, Rockwood Street, Sherborn.
Could you talk directly into the mic? So you can
Please?
be heard, talk directly into the mic so you can be heard. Straight
Okay.
line into the mic.
Grace Shepherd, Rockwood Street, Sherborn. I think this is a question for town council. Is the state law that's being referred to totally applicable in the town of Sherborn? And is there anything in this bylaw that attempts to expand or reinforce? Because if there actually is some validity that there's some aspect of farming that is not protected, they should write a bylaw that deals with it. And if everything they want is protected by the state, the question is, why have our local version, I think.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I looked at this when I reviewed the warrant, and my recollection is that it's word for word taken from the state model. So as far as I know, there are no differences.
Yes.
I think what has just been said suggests that the town felt they had a reason, their interpretation of the law, they had a reason to be involved in the lawsuit, and they apparently didn't. But there's no way to stop anyone from attempting a lawsuit. So I don't think it relates at all to the issue before us, which is whether we need to repeat a state law and our local law. Because either way, we can make mistakes and have lawsuits, or maybe not make mistakes and have lawsuits.
Are there any other comments or questions? If not, we're going to return to the main motion, which is again a negative motion. It is a motion to take no action. Everybody understand that? All those, this is a simple majority for passage. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. Motion passes. Yes.
George Shea, 19 Deerfield Road.
Yes.
I move that we adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? A motion to adjournment before you all leave is to a specific time and place. It is here this coming Thursday in 2 days, 7 o'clock. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay.